Trish.
Hi,
Yeah,
Jay. How
David,
you
Trish, can you hear
doing?
me? Good. How are you?
I can. Can you hear me?
Yeah,
I'm doing great. Thanks.
yeah, I hear you, Jay.
Okay.
And Ken just told us that Commissioner Ruane will be coming on at exactly at 9 o'clock. He'll be in.
Okay. Well, it's almost about that now, isn't it?
Right. So what we should do is just start the meeting, assuming whenever he comes in, because he's got
Right.
pushes and pulls, I'm sure. We just have to be flexible around the people who are coming in with information.
Gentlemen, are we going to do a Q&A or you just want me to provide an update and then allow for Q&A?
Yeah, that's the way we typically do it. You do an update and then we ask for questions. And then we try to, the last time we did this, we had a very large audience. So we tried to just take questions that a lot of people were asking, basically the same one, rather than try to answer everybody's question.
Yeah. I think what
Right.
Ken is going to do is he's monitoring the Q&As, and after your report and update, those that are specific to LCEC, he will call, and if they're appropriate, he'll ask those questions of you. Because he's going to keep track of them. And then for those questions that are not related to you or any of the other specific updates, then at the end of the meeting, we'll take those questions to the panel.
Okay, sounds great.
Well,
Will Bob Walter be on this call as well?
Is that you that asked that, Trish? Yes, Bob will be on the call. As will Diana Wilson from Island Water.
Great.
As will I believe, Lieutenant Zawicki.
Yep.
Jeff Powell from the fire district.
Okay. Thank you.
okay, well, it's getting to be about 9. Now, where is everybody, I wonder?
I will be letting them in as I can find them. Everybody,
Okay.
everybody comes into the same list. So as we get more, it takes a little while to,
Right.
there's.
Morning, everyone.
Good
Hey,
morning.
Bob Walter.
Hey, Trisha. How are you?
Hi, how are you? I'm good.
Good, good.
I did get your email and I'm hoping to respond to that today.
Awesome.
I knew
See,
you.
everybody, I'm not lying.
I think we'll start as soon as Kevin comes on.
It's 8:58. We still got 2 minutes.
Okay.
85 participants already.
85.
Yeah, so far.
SRO today, guys, I bet.
Now
Yeah.
we're up to 89.
Hey, Linda Laird.
Yes, hi there, Jay.
Yes, you wanted to have Daniel Munt on also on this meeting to do a little discussion of CEPD.
Yes, Daniel and Nicole. Nicole's gonna give,
Nicole Sharp,
yes, from
Okay.
Alton. She's going to
Right.
give a view of an assessment of
happened to
what
the beach?
happened and where are we going,
okay,
okay?
very good.
Mm-hmm.
Good morning.
Hello,
Hi, Jay.
hi there, John
Morning.
Jensen.
Hi, Jay. Can you hear me? Bruce McDonald.
Yep, I got you, Bruce. I see you loud and
Morning.
clear.
Okay, great.
You still in Canada?
Yes, I am. Yeah, it's getting cold here, though.
Mhm.
33 this morning here.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah. So I got to get the hell out of here.
Yeah,
Just so you know, we're being recorded, number one, and number two, I'd recommend, given the number of people we're going to have live, if you're not speaking, mute yourself. We had some concerns the last call that we were picking up background noise and it was tough to hear.
yes.
The phone number you just saw that come up on the panelist, that is Diana Wilson.
Correct. I am here.
Diana Wilson, Water Association, IWA, correct?
Correct.
Yes, that is correct. Correct.
Good. Thank you so much for being here.
Ken?
It's my pleasure.
Ken, would you please let Commissioner Ruane in? He's on the call.
Let's see. Do we know what he's named?
That's
Might
your-
be District 1.
Could be his phone number. I'm not sure. Ruane K.
Okay, that's further
That's
down on the
easy.
list.
Yes. He heard you, I guess, but yeah, it's Ruane K.
There it is.
Where is it?
After Q and before S.
Oh, I see.
There.
it. There it is. Okay.
There he is. Good morning.
Okay.
Kevin.
Good morning.
I understand you have to be on a helicopter in about a half hour.
I may be a little bit delayed because there's fog in Captiva, so I can't
Okay.
land there yet. So as soon as I
Alright,
gotta
well-
hop, as soon as they let me know, I'll hop off.
Okay, so we will put you on first, since you're probably gonna have to leave soon. I'd like to welcome everybody to this October 11th meeting of the Captiva Community Panel. This is one of our panel's regular meeting dates. However, we're going to adjust the format to focus only on updates from key people involved in our rescue effort. So we're going to devote the meeting to updates from that. We'll do one little piece of business at the end of the meeting after all of our key speakers have made their comments. For those of you that are just joining a community panel meeting for the first time, I want to stress, what the community panel is. We are an organization of volunteers that advises Lee County on what rules, policies, procedures, whatever the county should be doing on behalf of Captiva. Most of you know Captiva is not a city. We're unincorporated Lee County. We do not have our own government. Lee County is our local government. So this organization exists to advise Lee County on the needs of Captiva citizens. We don't have any governing ability ourselves. We are just an advisory group. So with that behind us, I'd like to open the meeting to Kevin Ruane, and Kevin, make any comments that you think appropriate that would help people understand where the county is what the overall situation is and perhaps what some next steps might be that Captivans could expect to see on our island.
Okay, so good morning all. Kevin Irwin, your county commissioner for your district. Good news is yesterday, Pamela Smith has arrived here at the EOC. She is here full-time, 7 to 7. She is liaison to EOC to make sure whatever request you have, they need to go in a web portal, and every request you have is a mission. Our objective is to make sure we list everything that you request. We put it in the portal, and then we track it for you to understand exactly what items have been requested, give you a time frame to try to do the appropriate things. David Mintz and I have coordinated, and he's given me your schedules of information we have. We're trying to obviously coordinate many of those as quickly as possible. Some are going to be easier than others to obviously achieve. But the list that David gave me obviously is comprehensive.
Right.
There's nothing on the list that he has requested that we believe we cannot achieve. It's really going to come down to timeframes associated to make sure we get them done. Some have happened very quickly. Some are a little bit more challenging. I'm supposed to go to Captiva today to try to achieve many things. One, Tim McGowan has allowed us to bring barges to him. We have some obstructions, mainly mangroves, that we're going to have to remove. So I want to have boots on the ground to understand what our challenges are.
Okay, so you're going to
associated
be,
with
Tim
that.
McGowan saying you're going to land at the Green Flash restaurant, is that?
That's the objective. We just need to
Okay.
understand what obstacles are in the way to make
Right.
that happen. As far as that's concerned, that's the most important thing, obviously, from a
Right.
barge point of view. Because with that in mind, then as we talk about, okay, if you come here and you need transportation, again, I could only provide transportation once I get on the barge.
Right.
So, hey, David, is everybody aware of the list you sent to us?
No, they're not.
No, and, yeah, you can go over it if you like, or we can go over it.
Maybe David, do you want to just review it quickly or?
Well, there's actually, quite frankly, there's two lists. Pamela and I and David have a call at 12:30 to go over David's list, and there's some additional stuff. So it's pretty extensive. I mean, I can put it
Okay, well,
up.
let's just leave it that we have put together a list of what the top Captiva needs are. And Kevin is committed to, trying to address this list of what our critical needs are. And he's assigned Pamela Smith to be a point person on understanding what our needs are. Was that?
Yeah, I think at some point, Jay, when Kevin gets off, we can go through the list so that people have a sense of.
Okay, let's do it that way.
Yeah, because I think it's important, and maybe we can even go through the list. And while Kevin is here, I'm just trying to find the list that I have.
Okay.
The problem is.
I can put it up, David.
And can we also publish it on our website so that people can see it?
David, quick way,
Yes.
go to the calendar notice.
Okay,
Both
I
lists
have
are
it.
in the calendar notice.
I have it in front of me now, Bob. Okay, Kevin, would you like me to, Commissioner Ruane, would you want me to look at that and then you can comment on it?
Sure.
I
Okay.
think some people are going to have to mute. I think we're getting background noise, please.
Okay, we have about 8 or 9 items on the list that have been called from various people who've been making their concerns. The first thing that we have on the list is that property owners, their insurance adjusters and their contractors must be able to gain immediate access to Captiva to prevent further destruction of homes from rain and mold. So what we've asked the county to do is to figure out for us how people, property owners, adjusters, and contractors can get to their homes. There are 2 levels of this that are of concern. First, right now, there are individual fishing captains and individual people with boats that are taking people on an ad hoc basis from the mainland to Captiva. We need to formalize a place where people can disembark from on the mainland and arrive on Captiva safely. And that's the first thing we're asking the county to help us do. The second thing is to set up a ferry service, which will be done with Captiva Cruises, we hope. And they will have a regular scheduled ferry service that'll leave from the mainland and come to Captiva and return to the mainland. Captiva Cruises is devoted to Captiva. They are working with their attorneys to provide a contract. The contract has been drafted. They are reviewing the contract that has been drafted between the county and Captiva Cruises as we speak right now. And hopefully that can be produced to the county within the next day or so, or even today. And then the county will review it, and hopefully we can get a ferry service up and running as quickly as possible. Kevin, do you want to comment on that at all?
Yes, I do. So most importantly, Adventures in Paradise have already submitted a contract. We're going to make sure as soon as we have a copy of that, we'll send it on to you to make sure it's consistent with what has been approved. It's the same language. I just want to expedite this.
If you can get that to us as quickly as possible, that would be great.
I just hung up with Nina Stewart. Unfortunately, they sent it to the city of Sanibel, so it hasn't come in the queue here. So right now it's on an approved mission. They're doing it. I just need to make sure we get it. I talked to Nina Stewart. She'll certainly get it to us. We'll have it this morning. Pamela will send it to y'all.
Okay, the second thing that we've asked the county to do, and I know Bob Wolf has been working on this, is to help us once we land on Captiva with our contractors, with our adjusters, with our homeowners, or with whoever we need to help us evaluate our homes, is to have some transportation. So if you land at McCarthy's, or you land at Bayside Marina, or if you land anywhere down in the main area of the village of Captiva, there will be transportation, be it a van or a golf cart that can take you to your property, take your adjuster to the property. We don't want people walking 2 miles to get to the homes. So we're going to have the ferry service, and then we're asking the county to set up some sort of ground transportation so we can get to our homes and our adjusters can get to the home. Do you want to comment on that?
So what we're working on is a trolley service. That's what it looks like it's going to be. And obviously we'll continue to try to do that as quickly as we possibly can.
Okay. The third thing is that while we're on the island, we need to make sure that we can communicate with our contractors or adjusters. And so we have to make sure our self-service is working. Our self-service was improved significantly a couple of days ago. However, it's still extremely spotty and it goes out. So the county is working with their providers, various providers, to bring in some temporary cell towers to improve self-service so communication can be improved. Kevin, did you want Commissioner Ruane, is there anything you can add to that?
So we have 120 Starlinks ordered as soon as we possibly can. The objective is to try to set a command center or multiple command centers where we can plug them in and continue to help cell coverage. As soon as we have an ETA, we'll let you know when they're coming in.
The fourth thing we've asked the county to work with us on is to get some porta potties or comfort stations on Captiva, because at this point we don't have water and we don't have toilets. And so I know that the county's been working with South Seas, who has some comfort stations that they've used for weddings. And if there's a way we can have comfort stations set up on Captiva for everyone that arrives, and increasingly more people will be arriving on the island, that would be wonderful. Kevin,
let me add to that before Kevin comments. We actually have those bathrooms set up now. Island Water got us water to the conference center. The bathrooms are set up. The only thing I need is a pump truck, because once they get full, we have nothing to do with it. We can't do anything with the waste. So that's on my list with Pamela.
Okay.
So we're working with Bob Hemshoot to try to provide that service.
Bob, do you know that those bathrooms will be, where will they be located so that people who are not seas but on the island as a whole?
They're in the south end, across from Chadwick Square in our conference center.
Okay, so that'll be set up for everybody's use.
If there's a landing spot for others, we did put 12 more in the queue.
Yeah, there's a landing spot 150 yards from those.
Okay. We put 12 more in for the queue.
Okay, and what we're learning very quickly is that though the area of Captiva didn't suffer as much as Sanibel, there's no question about it. Although, could people please mute themselves? If they're not talking?
We have to, if you're not speaking,
guys,
you have to mute.
Kevin's in the situation room. It's very loud in there. I think
Okay.
All right.
Okay, so what we're learning is that had serious water penetration to their houses. That where our structures are standing, it's much worse when you're on the ground and you realize that a lot of these houses have been inundated with water, muck, and it's mold developing, et cetera. There's going to be a lot of removal of things from the house, from their furniture to our furniture to drywall to a lot of things to try to save the houses. And that debris is going to be up in front of the houses. There's also a tremendous amount of vegetation down. Many houses look like one big giant tumbleweed, and that vegetation is going to have to be cleared so that the utilities can get to the utility poles and island water can get to water to the backflow valves. So we're going to have a lot of debris on our island that's going to have to be managed. And there are strict rules about how you separate out the garbage. You got to have your construction debris separate from your vegetation debris to facilitate the removal of that debris. Commissioner Ruane, removing debris is a major concern for people on Captiva. Do we have any information about what that process is going to be?
So, we're obviously working that. I think the most important thing that we have been told is the bridge is going to be done by next week.
Next week?
Yes. They've done A, they're almost done with B.
Why don't you just say that one more time so people can...
Yeah.
Okay, the bridge, obviously A's been done and B's almost done. We anticipate it to be done by next week,
Wow.
end of next week.
So the debris removal process will be handled over the bridge. That's basically
Well, the other thing that we're trying to do on debris and we're trying to see is I'm meeting the fire chief out there to try to see if we could determine 3 burn sites. That might make things a little bit easier if we do have haulers on their island already. If we could start to move some of it to burn sites, we certainly are, we did that during Charlie. We had burn sites established on Sanibel. We wanted to do the same thing. So I meet with Jeff as soon as I'm able to travel out of here.
So it'll be like the end of with giant trucks coming to pick up the debris and remove the debris over the bridge. Is that what the intent is?
The debris will be 2 things. Vegetation, I think we're going to burn on the island.
Okay.
Debris will move off the island.
Okay.
It's just less volume and less trucks. We're going to need to understand what the weight restrictions may be. And they may be like we did last time during Charlie, it might be just 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. It's just trucks. So we're trying to make it an organized fashion because I can tell you right now, Highland doesn't have those restrictions. And it's just a mess with everybody trying to get over at the same time. I'm going to advocate that we have trucks from 7 to 7 because the curfew goes in effect at 7. So just have truckings come over from 7 p.m. to 7 a.m.
Yeah, I will do that, sir. I'll call you because we can move those.
The other thing that was on the list, and now it's very interesting because if the bridge is going to open within a week, what we had talked about with the county is creating a barge system where barges would be able to dock on Captiva with supply boats and heavy equipment so that people can repair their homes. We really believe we have a lot of ingenious and entrepreneurial and very self-reliant people on Captiva. We just need to provide the access and the wherewithal for them to fix their homes. So
I want to do both.
Yeah, I think that's right. I mean, the bridge is going to be able to handle certain things. I think you're still going to need.
I want to be able to do both.
Barge
I want to have
access.
both pathways. I want to have both pathways.
Both barges and bridges, is that what you said?
Yes, I want to do both.
Yeah.
Bridge and barges.
Okay, so what we're going to do is work with the county to set up a system so that those people who have barges can bring the barges on with the heavy equipment and with the supplies so the contractors can rebuild people's. The next thing on the list was security. We can maintain security on the island where more and more people are coming on. And we had National Guard for a short period of time. And now my understanding is the county has beefed up the sheriff's deputies on the island. I know we can have a report from Lieutenant, but Kevin, do you have anything to say about the?
So there's been eight additional sheriffs ordered. There's never supposed to be more than one going to Upper Captiva We put another 6 in right now in the queue. That's what we believe we'll have. One of the challenges we have with the National Guard leaving, we're stretched pretty thin. As we continue to have more traffic lights up, we'll have more resources, but I'm comfortable. We can say there'll be 6 more coming. So it'll be a total of 14.
Okay,
And we asked the county to make propane available to Captiva so that people would generate time as the power is restored. And we're going to have a report from LCEC about the restoration of the power, and we're going to have a report from Island Water about the restoration of water. But Commissioner Ruane, do you have anything to add about power or water on Captiva?
But I'm going to circle back on propane, David. The truck's already been ordered. We already executed that on Pine Island. So that's on the top of that. We'll have updates on both water and LCEC. LCEC sits right next to Pamela at our desk. So she'll be able to have live updates. We'll try to make sure we feed those, so you have that information from Pamela. Water, I'm going to try to get to Island Water today to understand what their situation is. But more importantly, I also want to look at FGUA. I'm trying to find out information on that as well. So we'll have both water situations with some update by tomorrow.
Okay, the other issue that arose is whether or not our package plants at Twin Waters, at Captiva Shores, at Sunset Captiva are up and running or can be up and running, or how much repairs have to be made. And the same thing with the septics. There are people who have septics which may have been damaged during the storm. And my understanding is that FEMA may be able to assist in helping get those repaired. And Commissioner Ruane, do you have anything new on that?
Not at this point in time, David, no.
Okay. So I think that, first off, Tony, did you want to say something? You're on mute, Tony.
Yeah, David, it looks like we're going to have a generator running our sewer plant. When I was up on Captiva, I inspected the plant. The plant looked fine. When something like this happens, we're without power for so long, the plant goes septic and still can function as a giant septic. But as one of the needs we're going to need is chlorine when those trucks come across, to bring chlorine in to chlorinate the water before it goes to the drain field. But we do have a system set up to run it because we're going to have a lot of people staying. These people are doing the renovations and stuff, staying at the hotel. So the factors we will do is get that up and running, just so you know, whether we get power or not, we should be able to run the plant because this company is supplying us with a generator to run the plant. Okay.
Okay, Tony, am I understanding you to say that you're trying to get Twin Waters up and running as a place where people can stay when they come to visit their properties and so forth?
Well, I got to be specific, Jay.
Yeah.
This would probably go through Doug. Doug has made a contract with these renovating people to basically take over the resort. And we have a 2-month, currently, according to Doug, I had a call with him last night. We have a 2-month contract with them. So it's going to be, once we get settled in and how many people they're going to bring, we'll have a better understanding probably another week or so. Okay.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
And one other thing that contractors, when I was on the island Friday and Saturday, and one of the things contractors have been saying to me is that if there's ways we can have shared supplies immediately arriving on Captiva, things like chainsaws, small generators, tarpaulin, tops, buttons to get the tops down. There's a whole list, Commissioner Ruane, which I'll provide to Pamela Smith. And maybe there's ways we can bring a whole, dumpster full of supplies that people can share and use. So every contractor doesn't have to bring out their own chainsaw, et cetera, as we reach their homes. But we'll supply that list. I think that the thing that people have to, I hope our Captiva residents understand, is that power and water are primary. We have to get them back. After that, we have to figure out a way for you to get access to your home so that we can get access to our homes so that we can repair them as quickly as possible and mitigate mold growing over time. that is our number one priority that we've made clear to the county. We need their assistance doing that, and they are committed to helping us do that. We have asked for a person to be a direct contact with the county. Bob Walter's been working closely with the Emergency Operations Center and has been doing a great job. But unlike some people, we are lucky we have the county commissioner as our point person for Captiva.
Right.
And I think people have to understand how valuable that is and what a commitment that has been. And that's hopefully why we'll get through this crisis in a way that makes sense and as quickly as possible. Jay?
Hey, Jake, Kevin mentioned FGUA, I've got an update that I was going to give an FGUA, and let me echo what David just said, Commissioner Wayne. Thank you for, you've been nothing but 100%.
Your transmission is breaking up.
Mine is? Mine is?
I hear you.
Okay.
right.
Little quick update on FGUA, which supplies the South Seas plant. I spoke to Mike Currier, who's the regional manager with FGUA, several times in the last week. The plant actually continued running on generator throughout the entire storm and is in very good condition, he says. They did a cursory review of lift stations on their first trip in and said they were in good condition. They were back there today, tomorrow, and the next day to triple check the lift stations, but he seems to think the lift stations, if they continue to be in the condition they think they are, they can get them up and running as soon as possible, and they're going to start on the north end marina and work their way towards central. And that was an update as of yesterday afternoon. So that's very, very good news. I'll pass it back to you, Jay.
Okay. Kevin, are there any other points that you want to get across before we move on?
Two. Tony Lappy, if you could determine how much chlorine you need, just so I can get the panel and we can put it in the queue, we'll make sure that happens. Two, two important numbers that you all need to have. One is 239-533-2224. That's my office number. Lori's making and taking all normal phone calls, whatever you might need. But more importantly, Pamela Smith is here at EOC, and I can't stress enough, Bob knows the situation when we're in. Her phone number, her cell phone is 239-246-7070. Between Bob and David, let's funnel whatever your requests are there. If there's an emergency, try to use Pamela if you need to, but I'm just trying to give people information so they have it. We want to answer every request. We're just going to put them in priority order. And as long as I understand what the panel's needs are, we can execute those, because we are fortunate. I'm the only commissioner that has an EOC representative representing my district right here.
Right.
And Pamela's got 20 years of experience dealing in EOC. So no one has the understanding of how the portal works and how this all operates. And Bob's been a tremendous resource here. I've seen him here. We've certainly talked. But as we get information and as you need more information, just understand that this is government working as quickly as possible. And I can tell you, it's moving at a pace you can't even imagine. I mean, the causeway alone is just continues to blow my mind at the work, the way it's been doing. But listen, we're going to get through this. We're committed to obviously helping, Captiva and my district, whatever we can possibly do, we want to do. Let's just make sure we have a mission. Whatever you need, we put it in and make sure it gets paid for. I did have the opportunity yesterday to meet with Bay County Commissioners. They went through Michael. They got 100 days worth of FEMA reimbursement. So our 120 days doesn't seem to be really abnormal, considering they also gave us a financial feasibility on how they got through. They're 4 years out. So we've already put in place. The county has put in for a $500 million line of credit, which we've already been approved for. FEMA paid Bay County's interest for the first 2 years. They're obviously trying to get the next 2 years. So at the end of the day, we're going to function as a county as we rebuild. But the good news is that we have the resources that we put in together. It's really important that you make sure whatever your needs are, you put in a portal. Unfortunately, we did have a casualty yesterday in Fort Myers Beach where they didn't have a contract for debris removal. And unfortunately, they have to pay for that contract by themselves. And I don't think they have the financial capability of doing so. So it might necessarily cause some real thoughts that they might need to do. And that's not for me, but I'm just saying how crucial it is as we do things, make sure we put them in the portal, make sure FEMA's paying for them. Because right now, if you got to take a checkbook out, there's nobody around that has a checkbook to pay for these things. I'm
Right.
telling you. I'm just really concerned to make sure we do that.
Can you repeat Pamela's number?
Sure. 239-246-7070.
It's
Okay.
really important though that we don't light up her phone. I mean,
Right, that's,
I've got a
Absolutely.
direct connect.
Yeah.
I've got a direct connect to her. Feel free to send me requests, or Ken Gooderham, if we can have panel requests go through you, and then to David and I, if that works,
Right,
David,
right.
for you.
Emergencies only is why I gave that. Emergencies only. If they can't get to Bob, they can't get to David, they can't get to me. Emergency only, please. I want her to do what she's supposed to be doing, is executing these orders and keeping track of it, so we give you timely updates.
yeah,
Okay,
I think it's really important that the numbers that Commissioner Ruane gave are for policy and island-wide issues. They're not for individual calls that, listen, I need help with this, or I need help with a contractor or something.
right.
This is strictly a government number. And I know that people have all kinds of questions, but Pamela and Bob and others have to do their job. And that's the job for the island as a whole. This is not a telephone number for.
It's not a personal helpline.
Yeah,
Can,
let me just say something. The panel is going to help with certain things. We have a website that people can go to. The panel website will have the list and time of all future meetings, which will give updates to everybody about official news on Captiva, what's happening with the bridge, what's happening with FEMA debris removal, et cetera. So you'll be able to see that. So all official notices will be on the Captiva Community Panel website. Also, we are setting up, and I think this is very important, a bulletin board for Captiva residents. It's a bulletin board that we're not vouching for the names on them, but contractors have made themselves available to our residents. Tree removal people have made themselves available, landscapers, plumbers, etc. We know how hard it is to find a contractor to work on your house now. So we are going to put on this bulletin board all of the names of the contractors and their telephone numbers and suppliers, et cetera, who are offering their services to Captiva community residents. We can't vouch for them. We haven't vetted them, but they will be there. So, you know, if you need somebody to call for doing work for you, that list will be there. And that will be a bulletin board on the Captiva panel, community panel website. We're also going to have a part of the Captiva community website that will have a request for volunteers. So when the time comes, when volunteers are needed on the island, back to shape, we will have volunteers. The CCA, the Captiva Civic Association, is taking responsibility for that. They're working very closely with the Captiva Community Panel. These two organizations are working hand in glove for the community. So they will be handling volunteers as those volunteers do volunteer and as our needs become clearer.
Okay, David, does that complete what you wanted to say
Yes.
thus far?
Could I interrupt? Could I interrupt?
Kevin.
Right now, it is not safe to fly to Captiva. Unfortunately, the fog is really bad, so we may need to abort today. I don't know. I have commitments, obviously, at 2:00 that I have to be here to do. So we're going to try our best to get there. It's really essential. I can try to look at a few of these things. So I'll let you know, but I just want to let everyone know I got to contact Tim McGowan. I got to contact the chief. And also Ken Suarez is going to be part of the burn situation. I just wanted you all to know it may not happen. If you hear it didn't happen, it's because of fog conditions. We're fine here at the OC. It's just landing there is unsafe, is what they just told me. I got pulled aside while you all were talking by the commander doing all the helicopter flights.
Okay. All right, Kevin, please stay on as long as you can, but as soon as you have to leave, we will understand. We are
Jay-
very fortunate to have you as our district commissioner. You do an outstanding job representing Captiva, and we're so appreciative of all the work that you do for us.
Jay,
My
there was
pleasure.
one question that came in from
Yes.
the audience. Commissioner Wayne, when do you think we'll know what restrictions will be on the causeway?
I don't, until it's done, Ken, I won't know. As soon as it's done, we'll have inspections, and we're gonna have to work, obviously, in conjunction with Sanibel, like what we did. I'm going to suspect there'll probably be a day where people go and an evening where trucks go. That's what happened the last time. It's too early for me to even fathom what that inspection, what that way to look like. So you just got to be patient. Next week, I'll have a little better indication on when the timeframe will be finished. And then from there, once it's finished, it generally takes us 48 hours to do the full evaluation on weight limitations.
Okay, but Kevin, that causeway is not going to be for general use, people just going back and forth to the island, right? I mean, I imagine it's just going to be.
I don't want to say it's not, Jay, just because the Pine Island people are using it just like the Sanibel people are using it. People in Pine Island without electric are still living in their houses, so I can't necessarily heard. Just obviously, I can't say that, but I think there's certainly a will to see if we can do and let people travel over. That's why I just thought it's important if we could have a certain period of time where there's people, and then obviously a certain period of time where it's just trucks. It'd be a lot easier, because right now, the way they do it in Pine Island, it's everybody goes over at the same time, and the line's 3 hours long. So we want to try to avoid that as much as possible. And I think Charlie,
we will await direction from the county on how that causeway is to be used.
I think the way we did it during Charlie was really successful. It was 7 to 7 for trucks and weight, so we don't have any other people. It also allows a really productive utilization of equipment coming over without any impediments, without traffic, without anything. So I believe we're going to go to that playbook, but you know what? Until we actually determine it, that's just a guess right now.
Right. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you for that.
Jay,
Package plants, I've got a question.
Yes.
Is somebody coordinating all package plants? Because we've got the same problems at South, at Sunset Captiva. I would imagine Captiva Shores needs the same kind of things, because we need the chlorine and we're trying to get a generator.
Yeah. So relative to, go ahead, Bob.
Kevin, we have this is John. We have our plant operator has a rep from Florida Rural Water out there today to look at all the plants. So he may have access to chlorine. So I'll send you a report when they're all through.
Wonderful.
They're looking at all 3 plants today.
John, maybe keep me in the loop, John, if the chlorine is coming. If they can, depending on the weight limitations, they bring over that normal truck, they load us and load you guys up. That would be great. Okay.
Yep.
Keep me in the loop, John, when you know something. Thank you.
Yep.
Hey, John, keep me on the loop too, because we might have chlorine that you can use, and then you can just replenish us.
Okay. All right. Will do.
Let's move on to a report from Diana Wilson, Island Water.
Jay, what I was
Yes.
going to suggest, while Commissioner Ruane's here, maybe we get a report from Tricia Dawn at LCEC first, unless there's a time constraint, because I think he would like to hear, I'm sure, what the situation is with power.
Okay, that's fine. Tricia, you want to be next?
Could you possibly hold that off? I need to use the men's room. I want to hear this. Could you hold off on that? I need 5 minutes. Sorry.
Okay. So why don't we just then go to Island Water first, and then we'll go to LCEC.
Okay, Diana Wilson, are you there? Hello?
There she is. She was there.
She fell off and I just put her back on, so give her a minute to get.
Okay.
Okay. Are you able to hear me?
Yes. Thank you for attending our meeting, Diana. We're greatly appreciated. Please bring us up to date on the water situation.
Sure.
Has Diana fallen off again?
Yeah, I can't hear.
She's still there, but she's not.
Yeah, I can't hear her.
Diana, if you can hear us, we can't hear you. And she just dropped off again.
So we'll wait for her to come back in and we'll try it again.
This is proof that we improve our cell service.
Hey, Jay, Jeff, Fire Department, would you mind if I do an update so I can kind of get back to work here? I don't have.
Yes, okay, why don't you go ahead while we're waiting for Diana to try to figure out how to get back on.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Good morning, everybody. Obviously been, going through some trying times. Hopefully my communication's good enough here. We got Starlink installed. So at the moment, Wi-Fi is working better than cell phones are. So we'll go with this avenue. But just want to start by making sure I get a big thank you out to the resorts, South Seas, Twin Waters, Lee County for all the support and in some instances, some equipment you guys provided in our initial efforts to get this island search and rescue done out here. So, whether you knew it at the time or not, big thank you. And we really appreciate all the assistance we got from you guys and the continued support since from all you guys. I know Mike's on the call, so Mike, mute your ear so you don't have to hear it either. But the sheriff's deputies on the island have done a tremendous job out here assisting us. I know a lot of it may not have been their role as a sheriff's deputy, or hell, some of it even the role as a fire district. But we've got them living in our house right now, so we're kind of all one big team. The only difference is, we got axes and they got guns, but we're all kind of making it work out here. So they've done a good job. So specific fire district updates. My crews have all kind of just been given a brief little reprieve and got to go home and see their families, check on their homes, meet with insurance companies, clear stuff out, do all those kinds of things. So I've got 2 units out here. Some people had mentioned the Hurricane Michael up there, so we're kind of getting the favor repaid. I've got an engine company for Bay County, Florida, and then I've got one from Panama City. So all these areas that we've helped during their hurricanes, and now they're down here to help us any way they can. So if anybody makes it on the island and they see we've kind of got a mixture of personnel out here, good news is there's more equipment and personnel than we would traditionally ever have out here. So I'm sure Diana's going to update specifically on the water ability. It is water in the hydrants. Yes. Is it normal water in the hydrants? No. So we've got extra resources out here to combat that. And, we're basically under normal operations, whatever normal is right now. So
are you able to fight fires now? If debris would catch on fire, can you put them out?
Yeah. Yes, we are able to combat any firefighting activities. Like I said, the water supply that we would normally get to use on that just isn't what it normally is, which is why we have the extra resources and an extra water tender out here to assist with that. Obviously, there's going to be still huge challenges. We've done what we can to clear the main roads and even all the side streets for everybody, so we have access. But obviously, access to individual residents is going to be a challenge. We may be able to get, especially down on the Gold Coast, so those really long drives, we may be able to get there and we have ability, but then transversing down that driveway that's still blocked with a lot of trees is obviously going to be a challenge and delays, but we'll work through that. I did try and work through the county and forestry to try and get some resources to assist with emergency access on private driveways to assist with that. Those resource requests were declined, that they're not allowed to be used on private driveways.
Okay, so you cannot clear private driveways.
We are not, no.
Okay.
My crews could, if we had extra, could assist the homeowner in instances, but then that's an extra, strain on us and cost and everything that we would have to try and figure out manning. So at this time, we just can't accomplish that. So that's hydrants. 3, as Kevin had already mentioned during his update, Commissioner Rainier, we're working to assist, basically just facilitate and speed up the debris removal process. I know he mentioned burning to kind of put you guys somewhat at ease, as well as, my staff. We're not looking to open burn. We're looking to accomplish this through burn boxes, or they're called air curtains, big incinerators. So it's basically a huge box that all the debris goes into. So it's actually the most efficient, environmentally friendly way of disposing of debris, both construction and vegetation. This initial push is trying to get that vegetation at the initial phase to start getting some of that out of here. 1, to prevent the fire hazard. 2, to start opening up this island to make things easier as everybody tries to work and everything else.
Jeff,
So I am.
Jeff, do you have any protocols for people who are beginning to empty their homes of construction debris versus vegetation debris? Could you just outline that?
No offense, David, if you would have let me finish my sentence, that was next on the list.
Okay.
No offense.
Burning, the burning part that I was speaking on previously is mainly for vegetation currently in an organized fashion, not for any homeowners to pile up debris or vegetation and just light their own stuff on fire. That is not what we're speaking of there. Normal debris that whether it's household debris, refrigerators, couches, trees, do not put them anywhere in the right of way in the road. Try and keep them separated, home debris, vegetation debris, because as we start these processes, those are 2 separate cleanup things. Do not block any fire hydrants with debris. I currently have all these crews I've got working for me here are out today uncovering all the hydrants, because a lot of landscape companies and guys have just started cutting stuff and throwing it wherever. So I've got crews out there going through the whole island, clearing all those out again. So please, my guys did a really great job, and they worked their butts off clearing these roads for everybody. The last thing we need is all this debris getting pushed back out into the roads and hampering those efforts. So
yeah, Jeff, if I could jump in there, I have to emphasize that point, because if you have one house on one side of the street, one on the other, and you got half your debris on a little bit of the road, then a lot of the road's gone. So we want to keep it on your property, keep it separated, and we'll get to it in due time.
Okay, Jeff, could you write up something that we can post on our website as to how to, handle your debris?
I'll try and put something together for you, Jay. I've got, like I said, I've got a little bit better internet service and coverage. We haven't had the time and ability to really update our website yet, but it'll be coming shortly. But I'll get something over to you, Jay. Absolutely.
Just so that people understand, what you've just said. I mean, we're maybe with this meeting reaching 1/3 of our property owners. There's probably 2/3 that are not tuned in, that are going to need this direction.
It's important that they keep checking, though, because, for example, Kevin was going out there today to look at sites for the incinerators. Jeff and I circled last night and talked about it. We're looking at a couple on our property as well as somewhere else in Captiva. So it's going to be updating as well.
Okay. Okay, Jeff, other matters?
Yeah, so as we just mentioned, absolutely. So as we mentioned, as soon as Kevin can get out here, we're going to kind of evaluate some of those sites. I've already met with forestry out here on their recommendation of certain sites. As Bob mentioned, I've spoken with him, multiple private contractors, residents. So that's moving. Obviously, as Commissioner Rain had mentioned, there's always red tape and permits and stuff that need to be done. So that's why I'm trying to help and facilitate to get some of that stuff through. Lastly, as was mentioned and/or requested through a few of you, Bob Walter and whatnot, as far as bathrooms on the islands, if there's a request for more restrooms needed, comfort stations, however you want to put it, we can try and make room in our parking lot to place one of those comfort stations if they bring one of them restroom trailers out here. I don't have a staff currently that can actually drive out here. So my parking lot's not being as utilized as much. So if we need another space aside from what South Seas is able to offer by the conference center, we can try and work something out there. We cannot continue to open the fire station restroom. We only have a couple. I can't support the full needs of every contractor and resident that's coming out here. We're obviously also on septic and still unsure of what the condition is of that. So I've got 14 people already in this building. I can't continue to just allow everybody to walk up and use a restroom on a daily basis. So, but we can try and assist with the space if you guys need more trailers out here. Go ahead. I see Tony raising his hand. Looks like you might have a question for me.
Yeah, we have basically those 4 restrooms down by the spa, and we have water on the property. I just got off the phone with my guys. We have water. So obviously they could use those bathrooms. If anybody's on that end of the island to go down and walk under the spa, we have 4 bathrooms. And you know, obviously we have the lift station, so which we operate by our own generator, you know, as we are. So, you know, if somebody's down that way of the island and they don't have any other needs, they're welcome to come in and use our property for that.
Okay, very good.
All right, next, as Kevin had mentioned on the FEMA reimbursement that the county's seeking, obviously the fire district is in that same position because we obviously incurred way more expenses in this emergency effort after than we normally would. So the fire district goes through those same types of reimbursement that the county would. Along with that, he had mentioned using the Web EOC portal for any needs that the community might need or feels that that's going to be necessary out here. Just be assured, I know people on this call may or may not know other people in the EOC. The Web EOC requests that the fire district puts in are totally separate from the EOC requests that you guys maybe as a panel and community members are requesting. Anything that I end up, you know, if I request as a fire district and I get an asset for a while, I'm the one who's going to end up with the bill and having to reimburse that. So just keep that in mind that those are kind of 2 separate requests. That those requests that the panel's requesting that you guys just mentioned are community specific, not on my end as emergency response specific. So just so you guys have that in your mind. Last, I think last, I don't know, my lists are so long these days, I'm not really sure. I'm sure there's something else I'm missing, but like I said, we are working to get our website back up and running and try and get some information on there. In the meantime, there's always the info, and Jay, I'll get this over to you and Ken so you can put it on your update, but I'll mention it on this call as well. Info, info at captivafire.com is a direct email to the fire district. Specific to hurricanes is hurricane_request at captivafire.com. So, you know, if you have such a request of, hey, can somebody run by my house, non-emergent, hey, I can't get anybody else on the island, can you go see if my house is destroyed or if it's standing? We're not a home watch or property management company, but we can go by and tell you what the what may or may not be coming back to. Now that we've slowed down with that initial search and rescue, you can send those types of requests through either of those emails and we will do our best to assist with that. Obviously, any emergencies, 911 is functioning as normal. So if you have an emergency, please call 911 the best you can with whatever coverage you have. And we will be dispatched to those calls as usual per protocol. Lastly, I know a lot of you have my cell phone. It may or may not work. So if you have called me recently and I have not called you back, it probably did not work. And that's why I never responded, or I just got too busy and forgot. So I apologize for that. End of report.
Okay, do you want to give us your cell phone number or do you prefer not to?
Yeah, I can give it to you because it's in the signature of my email. Most people probably already have it anyways, but 239-896-2057.
Jeff's cell phone, okay.
So yes, again, just thank you. The fire district appreciates the support. We've had residents bring by, you know, food, water. You know, we've had people brought in barbecue for our crews. So, you know, like I said, we just thank you guys for the support on the island. We're here to help any way we can.
Okay, Jeff, what are your major next steps that the fire department needs to do? Are there any, or?
Yeah, I mean, obviously the search and rescue emergency aspect of initial storm recovery are past now. So we're in the assisting the community however you can, as well as figuring out how we can get our operations back to normal. Obviously, I can't just have my crews drive out here and do a swap like they normally do in the morning, because until we have that proof. So we're trying to figure out a transport, whether it's the ferry from Sanibel, which we've been trying to utilize. We've had to use our fireboat or some sort of crew boat. We've got to figure out our easy transition for crews to get on and off the island efficiently for a schedule. And then, like I said, priority is working with the county to help establish those burn sites and get rid of some of this debris removal.
Okay, do we have any questions for Jeff?
Did he call you?
Yes.
Okay.
And he wanted, he was at Crown Plaza. He came over. I talked to,
Yeah, the one, Jeff, there was one, could you repeat the email addresses you gave? Some people didn't get a chance to get those.
Sure. Ken, I'll also send these to you to send out with your update. But the easiest one is info, INFO, at captivafire.com. Second is hurricane_request at captivafire.com.
Hurricane_request at captivafire.com.
Yep.
Okay, any other questions for Jeff?
I was saying also rest assured, the fire station took minimal damage in the storm. So we, like I said, we are up and running as normal. Some damage to some AC units on the roof, some minor water intrusion through windows and whatnot through surge, and we had some water in the bay. So a mess to clean up, but operating as normal. So rest assured.
Okay.
No
Jeff,
phones, obviously, so you can't call the fire station.
All right, thank you very much for that report. Kevin is back, I see. Can we go back to Tricia Dorn and the LCEC update?
Hi, good morning.
Hi,
Tricia
Trish.
Dorn with, hey, good morning, everybody. Thank you for the opportunity to be here and give an update on where we are. Rest assured, we've been working very hard. I just want to start by saying that we did lose our entire fleet at LCEC due to the storm surge at our substation there. The substation did take on some damage as well from the saltwater surge. With the assistance all the way from our state, county, and local resources, we have been very active daily, making steps towards getting a response to get the power restored out there in Sanibel and Captiva. So I don't know if you've seen some of the Conaxes being delivered. With the help of the National Guard, we've had 5 Conaxes delivered of material to our site to help start prepping for the restoration. We have over 50 line trucks that have been barged to the island, in addition to the linemen to operate those vehicles. I don't know if you've seen any activity recently that we have some line trucks on the island starting to further assess. I will say the few days right after the storm passed, with the help of government, we did get feet on the ground and helped with clearing the roads because of the downed power lines and some infrastructure. So we helped with that, which also gave us a chance to take a look at assessing our damages. Sanibel took a big hit, and Captiva, on the other hand, wasn't as bad as we had expected from, other storms. Every storm is different. So the good news for Captiva is that circuit didn't appear to sustain a whole lot of damage. But what that means is we do have to get the transmission line energized to the Sanibel substation, and then the Sanibel substation will be the first start into getting these circuits energized. I know the big question is everybody wants to know a timeline, and unfortunately, we just don't have that quite yet. I will say that we're going to be bringing over quite a bit more resources today and additional material. One thing we are waiting on is, for lack of a better word, I've been referring to it as Tent City, to house, several hundred linemen that will be coming to the island. This is all inclusive, where they can sleep, eat, shower, bathe in one location. And we found a spot near the Sanibel School where that's going to be, along with our material. And we're also bringing a command center. Actually, it's been delivered to the island, a command center right next to the state EOC. So we're right next to their command center. And we're going to set up a command center there to have our resources have a place to go. So I just want you to know, I wish I could be on the call telling you when you'll have power, but it's so important to know that with all these resources from your state level down to local, we have gotten a considerable amount of help, and Commissioner Ruane is a part of that as well, along with the governor. So we're making big movement on these next couple of days, and I would love to give an update as often as you have them. If I know I talked to you, Bob. I could talk to whoever needs to give updates to push them out, but that's kind of what I have for my updates. Oh, I do have a question. We may need an area, I don't know if sanctuary or somewhere up towards Captiva, if needed, for parking of some line vehicles. And I don't know how crowded we are up that area, but if anybody knows of a location to perhaps park some of our line trucks, that would be helpful.
Trisha, reach out to me.
Okay.
And
I sure
Trish,
will.
I've just been told that the Captiva Civic Association has a parking lot, and there may be line trucks can be parked there.
Oh, that would be
Hey,
wonderful.
Tricia.
They'll be in touch with you. Yeah.
Okay.
Hey, Tricia, it's Bruce McDonald here. Could you just, for those of us that aren't technically literate, could you just sort of, in layman's terms, explain what the process is for recovering the power service on Captiva, and to the extent it's intertwined with the power service restoration on Sanibel?
Well, you are, to make it real simple, I'll really simplify it. So you're fed from the transmission line from Pine Island across the waterways, Pine Island Sound, to our substation on Sandcap Road. And from there, we have different circuits, a circuit that goes up to Captiva and other circuits that goes the other way. So once those circuits are patrolled and we take a look at all the transformers, all the equipment that needs to ensure it's safe to energize, we energize from the transmission to the substation to the circuits and then to the end user.
Okay.
That's really simplifying it. I hope that helps understand that.
Yeah. And then the main line from Pine Island out to Sanibel, I know initially there was some rumors around it being severed and this and that, but could you just comment on, is that line okay?
That line is okay. We're very lucky with such a storm as Ian. That line is okay. There's some things that we do to preemptive to make sure it's okay before we energize it. And we're making those efforts as we speak.
Okay. So Trish, is it correct to assume that the restoration of power?
Okay, did we get what we needed? Was it Kevin or was it Bill?
Okay.
Okay, hold on. Let's not talk over each other.
Yeah, I didn't know who's, Trish, is it fair to assume that the timeline for restoration of power on Captiva is a different timeline than the restoration of power on Sanibel, since it seems like you're saying the power to the Sanibel substation from Pine Island, it seems to be okay, and our service seems to be okay. So I guess,
right.
So the question is, can we assume that there's a possibility that Captiva get power restored before Sanibel, which suffered far greater damage?
I can tell you that because they are fed from different circuits, it will not be the same timing as Sanibel. And we have done a first assessment on the ground of taking a look at the infrastructure that feeds Captiva. And without holding me to it, it appears as though that would be the case. But I would feel more comfortable once our guys are driving their trucks up to all this infrastructure to make sure that there's not something damaged that we're unaware of. But I can assure you it is on 2 different circuits, so that the restoration will be different.
Okay.
And Tricia, when do you see
and,
when do you see that micro vision of the trucks identifying those areas? When do you see that happening?
Oh, it's happening.
Okay, I thought so too. I didn't want to put you in the spot.
And you're going to see a considerable amount of activity occurring here in very near future. So it's very active. The challenge, as you can imagine, logistically, is bringing over the vehicles, the resources, the material, but then having a place for several hundred linemen to stay without ferrying them over and ferrying them back. If we get this tent city set up, which is supposed to be by the end of the week, if not sooner, then we can have them on the island the entire time, and the resources will be there for the duration.
Hey, Tricia, just one other clarification. When you said Sanibel and Captiva on 2 different circuits, is that really the case, or is it there's a north part, and so part of Sanibel, which would be on the north end of the island, and the south end is different, or is it truly Sanibel and Captiva entirely on different circuits?
I can tell you in layman's terms, they're different circuits because we just have, that's the way the feeder goes when it comes out of Sanibel. So these feeders, we have so many different feeders that come out of that station, and one heads up to Captiva and others head the other way. So we call them by numbers.
So like the Santiva area would be on a Sanibel circuit, not the one going to Captiva?
What are you referring to exactly? When you're saying,
like where,
like
around where the Lazy Flamingo was and things like that, that area, is that on the same
I would have
circuit
to
as
look
Captiva
at
or,
it.
or
I would have,
Sanibel?
I don't have the map with me, but I'm thinking that would be
Okay.
Captiva based on my history. Don't hold me to that, but that's what I believe.
Okay.
I don't have my circuit map with me.
Okay, thanks, Tricia.
Uh-huh.
Okay, no problem.
Tricia, people have been talking to CEC over the last couple of days, different people, different, rumors fly like crazy. And we understand that you're going to move to restore service on Captiva as quickly as possible, notwithstanding what's happening in other places. And but they're talking about a week time frame or 10 days. Is that realistic that people, because they have to plan in terms of generators, contractors, et cetera. So if you can, without holding you to anything, if you can just give a sense of what the timetable would be for restoration of service on Captiva.
I would say I would need at least 24 more hours to be able to even come close to saying anything publicly on that. I would not feel comfortable. I need to get a little bit more information back from my field. I don't want to mislead anybody. I do know the importance of planning and these generators. I mean, for businesses and residents, we absolutely understand that, but I don't want to set a false expectation. But I can tell you things are moving, even as I'm on this call right now. I'm seeing a lot of updates. So if you can just give me a little bit more time, I'd be happy to share that with you. And I'm not quite sure how we can get it out to everybody between Ken and you and Bob. I'm sure there's ways that we can communicate that.
If you get any update, just let the panel, Ken, know, and we will get it out to the whole community. We have 1,000 people on our mailing list. Email.
Yeah. Tricia, just let me know and I'll get it to everybody.
All right, that's great. I absolutely know the importance, and I will let you know.
Kevin, Jay, does Commissioner Ruane want to participate in this discussion in any way? I don't know if he's still there.
I do not see Kevin is his video is still on, but he is not at his desk.
Okay.
So since power, and we've got a lot of cell phones running around right now on our comfort stations, can we get any kind of charging capability for people on the island? So that you have you can use the bathrooms, charge your cell phone, charge your electric things like chainsaws or whatever. Can we get charging stations set up for whatever you've got?
Anybody
Who's
have
that
any?
I guess the question is, I traveled there and I take a battery backup with me that lasts me and charges my phones and everything for 2 or 3 days. So I don't see that happening. For example, our restrooms that I mentioned in the opening that we have in our conference center, we've got a generator running those and we're constantly fueling that and keeping it running. But yeah, I would suggest if you're going to be out there any length of time that you bring a battery backup with you for your cell phones, etc.
Yeah, but can we put that on our list of requests to the county?
Yeah,
Because in other disasters, they have trucks that they send out with power supplies and things like that.
Yes. Trish, could I? A
That
question?
may be part of the disaster relief connexes that we have sitting in our employee housing lot right now. There are 2 connexes over there that were delivered last week that on my call today with Pamela at 12:30, I'm trying to get a grasp of when they're going up. But they're disaster relief with FEMA and everything else. So that might be part of that, Bruce.
But I think it's important because we also, for contractors, some of them do have electrical devices. Excuse me, battery devices. Not every, we converted people to that on some things.
I can assure you, every contractor's out there with a generator.
Yeah, Trish, is there anything that homeowners should do with respect to their own circuit breakers or anything while LCEC is trying to restore service? Are there any dangers in terms of, flow going through or burning out something or whatever?
That is a great question. I'm glad you brought that up because I wanted to mention that. I have something that I would like to send to a few of you if you can push it out. We actually have a press release. We do encourage, can you still hear me? Okay.
Yep.
Yep. It's always safe to turn off your breaker to your home or your business. But there's a great detailed list that I will send to you that you can send out to businesses and homeowners that explains it all in great detail. I will do that now.
Okay, thank you. That was Mike Martin's question.
Yeah, that great question.
Okay, so Trish, you're gonna send out procedures for how you should be handling electric power coming into your house, what you should do with your circuit breakers.
Yes, sir. I'm doing that right now as we speak.
Okay.
Trish,
Ken will get that on our website.
Trish, this is Sandy.
Hi, Sandy.
Hi there. I wanted to mention too, when you do the electric, I know this isn't in your wheelhouse, but they've tried their water. I've been on the island 4 times now, and people are turning on the water. So they should probably shut their water off at the main at the street. So that way, when the water does turn on, you don't have water running all over the place either. So.
Sandy, we have someone from Island Water that's going to speak to that right after Tricia Dawn is complete.
Great.
Okay, anything else for Trish?
Trish, this is John.
Hi, John.
In our community, Sunset Captiva, there's down power lines in the community. So should we do anything? Don't touch it. Just
no,
leave
we
it.
Got it. Just leave
Okay.
it. We got it. We'll have plenty of resources here very soon, and we'll take care of that. Yeah, you can just leave that, and we'll take care of it.
Thank you.
You bet, John. Thank you.
And Tricia, real quick, when you start putting this back together, and correct me if I'm wrong, but one of the things that you do, what is referred to, I guess, as a cut and drop, is you come in, any damaged lines, whatever, you cut and drop them, and then you just run through lines. You don't try to bring something back up or repair it or anything like that. Is that true? Or?
Right. Well, some of the infrastructure, if it is good, we will reuse it. And we're finding very technical terms, but I was hearing some reports yesterday that, there's some equipment out there that is absolutely fine to use. And it is tested, because if it was bad, it wouldn't allow us to energize it. So that's how we will know. I mean, sometimes if you go to energize something, a lot of transformers will come up. If one doesn't, then we know it was impacted by a saltwater surge. So then we have to isolate it. So
Cross fingers.
yeah, cross all your fingers.
Okay, Trish, you will communicate with us as soon as you have an estimate for when power might be back on.
Absolutely. We have meetings with our LCEC EOC team several times a day, and you can imagine there's a big focus around the islands, you know, Pine Island, Captiva, Sanibel, and I will absolutely keep you in the loop. I think it's very important to communicate this. And, you know, we all know that power and water are a sense of getting back to normalcy, and we understand the urge, and we're working very much around the clock, making that happen.
Right. Well, it will influence so much of our other planning, you know, when we know when power will be restored. So that's a tremendously important input for us.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Duly noted. Got it.
Anything else for Trish? Is that Kevin there? Let's see.
Yeah, that's Kevin there.
Yeah, Kevin. Kevin, Trish is finishing her report. Do you have any questions for her?
You're on mute. Commissioner Ruane, you're muted.
Okay, I don't have any questions for her, but I'm gonna have to hop. I'm gonna have to postpone my trip today to Captiva. There's something emergency going on that I need to attend to. I believe it's gonna be good news, but I'm unable to say anything.
Okay.
All right, I gotta hop. Sorry, I
All right.
apologize.
Thank you so much, Kevin, for attending. We really appreciate
Anytime.
it.
Anytime. Take care.
Thank you,
Kevin.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Okay, let's see if we can move on to the report from Island Water. Has Diana been able to figure out how to get back on? Does anybody know?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Okay. I moved to a location to try to balance some cell service with minimal background noise. So I apologize. This is as good as my communication is going to get.
Okay, we hear you loud and clear.
Perfect. When I dropped off earlier, I was mentioning that our RO plant has basically full capacity, but we are now limited in the water we can produce because the majority of our wells took storm surge, and so all of the electrical components were badly damaged. But we do have enough wells in operation that we're producing now between around 1,800 to 2,100 gallons a minute when we're going full force. To put that into perspective, a typical pre-hurricane production would be around 3,200 gallons a minute. So I would say when we're really pushing, we're not quite at 2/3 capacity. Our storage tanks are filling up.
Capacity now?
Correct. We are only operating during daytime hours when our staff is here. So between around 7:30 to 4:30 is when we have that production running. But we do have storage and high service pump in operation 24/7. That's generator powered. That is, okay. That is producing and distributing water throughout Sanibel and Captiva at around 45 PSI. We have not opened all side streets. We have opened in Captiva from the marina at the tip of South Seas all the way to Blind Pass. So Captiva Drive is open. It has that low pressure, as the fire chief had mentioned. We have shut off all meters and all side streets from that main trunk line. And we would definitely expect and prefer that people are not turning on their own meters. That is counterproductive to and carefully open up side streets and check for leaks before we go into individual service mode. So,
Okay, So are you saying that people that are located along Captiva Drive will have water now, or are you saying not to turn it on?
we will be putting out information in, we expect in about 7 days, that will allow all of our membership to communicate with Island Water through an online request where we can turn on the meter. We do need to know who is using water, how much water is being used. We are monitoring all of our flows right now. And so if 1 or 2 homeowners is turning on a meter to do some cleanup, it's probably not going to trigger a response. But when we get hundreds of people who are doing that, we won't be able to tell the difference between a homeowner's use and a leak. And that will pull our crews off of continuing to open and expand the system and onto leak search. So we are,
Diana, we've lost you again, I think.
no, I'm here. I just had a fuel delivery truck pull into the plant, so I'm back. So I do want to communicate that Island Water crews will turn on water at the individual service request for service reestablishment by the member. We will have a system to do that through our website, but we would ask that members do not turn on their own water in the meantime, because that is counterproductive to our effort to extend system-wide service and system-wide fire protection. But we do not, I will say, we do not have a force to stop people. We're just asking that people are mindful
Right,
of that.
that they
that
don't
reality.
do it. Right. Well, let's say you have a contractor, he's out at your house now and he needs water. You know, what?
Yeah, there are many in that situation, and that's why we're working to expedite full system operation, so that we can in a very controlled manner get all of the distribution system open, check for leaks, make sure that we have a sound and solid water distribution system before we start individual service lines. There are many in that situation, we understand, and that's why we have every available resource trying to open up those lines, those distribution lines right now.
Diana, I'm sorry, I got a little confused. So for example, we know there's water going down Captiva Drive, and then we have a whole bunch of roads or lanes coming off Captiva Drive, Andy Rossi, Chapin, and Gore, Whiteman, Leica, et cetera. Are you saying that there's water to those side streets, but you don't want people to turn them on? And if you have a special request, you have a contractor there, you can call Island Water and tell them that you're turning it on? What is exactly
No.
You want us to
No,
do?
I'll be more clear. The only water on Captiva is on Captiva Drive, from Blind Pass all the way to the marina at South Seas. There's one trunk line that's pressurized. The side streets are off. The meters, unless you're a first responder or a first responder priority for water, your meter has been turned off. No one on Captiva has water flowing through their meter unless it's first responder or priority first responders. No side streets. That is what our crews will be accomplishing in the next, my apologies for the background noise. That is what our crews are working to accomplish within the next 7 days, is to get all of the side streets off of Captiva Drive opened and pressure tested, so that when we reestablish individual service lines, we know that it's a sound system all the way to the member's service line.
Okay, so do individual owners have to do anything in terms of contacting Island Water, or is this just going to happen as Island Water does its investigation of each of these side streets and whether there are leaks?
Yes. We anticipate at the current pace that within the next 7 days, we will be able to communicate to both Sanibel and Captiva that the pressurized water main distribution system is fully activated, or at least substantially activated. And we will have on our website a request for reestablishment of property service. and that would be where a member could come to our website, islandwater.com, and fill out, there'll be an easy to find request form. They submit that, and then we would come out and in a controlled way, reestablish that service.
So
That is not activated. Go ahead.
So unless an individual property owner, say 7 days from now, makes a request to Island Water, their water will not be turned on at their home?
That is correct. We
That's what you
understand
want,
that
frankly.
people have access to, that is what we want, correct. This is, has to be done in a controlled manner, otherwise we will not be able to tell the difference between a significant leak in our system and just regular demand. And at this point, that is critical for us to know.
So homeowners aren't supposed to do anything right now, correct?
Correct.
And as a homeowner, you're going to want a representative or somebody in that house when they turn that water on.
Yeah.
Correct.
Okay. So nobody does anything for 7 days. After approximately 7 days after they get Island Water, that pressure is throughout the whole of Captiva, then an individual homeowner wanting water at his or her property makes a request to Island Water to turn on the meter at their particular home. Is that what you're saying?
That is absolutely correct. Yes.
Okay, and what's the procedure to make that request?
It will be initially by website. There will be an electronic form on our website, islandwater.com, and it will be very clear and easy to identify at the top of the page because we recognize the importance of that information and ability to request. And then our crews, and the other thing about the timeline would be once our pressurized system has been confirmed as secure, then our troops, Island Water staff, can be all hands on deck to open those meters. Whereas right now, everyone is working on getting that distribution system open. So that's another reason the timeline is important. But yes,
Right.
the website, the online form, eventually when we get staff back into our office, it could be by a phone call to our general administrative line, but that is in the future.
Okay.
And did you say that someone has to then physically go out to the property to reopen it?
Correct.
So
There's
how
a
many,
physical
I
valve.
guess if we're talking about the entire population of Sanibel and Captiva here, how many resources have you got to do this? Because if
we already turned them off,
it could take months.
We're in
We
the
already
process
turned them
of
off.
turning 5,200 off so we can turn them on. The timeline to turn them on will be less demanding than the timeline to turn them off.
Okay.
Hey, Diana, it's Bob Walter, South Sea.
Yes.
I want to listen. I got to sing her praises in Island Water. I mean, the fact that they came up with this direct connect plan to get fire life safety up and running is brilliant. And their crews with limited staff went through all of Captiva with the fire department, some of our team, et cetera, and turned off valves to get this up and running. I mean, it was a brilliant approach. And I mean, the way they're handling it, bringing it back, I think is the right way to handle it too. I mean, everybody wants water now, but the last thing you want to do is turn on your water, come down 3 days from now to your house and find out you had a great house, but you flooded it when the water came on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So Diana, thank you very much.
Thank you, Bob.
Well, Diana, this is John. I'm at Sunset Captiva and we have 59 homes. And I imagine the water's shut off into our whole community. And then I think our plan is to shut off the water to each individual home. We request the water turned back on to the whole community instead of each individual home.
So those are individually, the side street will be turned on. So the main that would go through all of Sunset Captiva Association would be turned on initially and checked by our distribution crews. Sorry.
Okay.
I'm sorry, just waiting for the background noise to stop. would be open that valve from the main trunk line to Sunset Captiva. We would check to make sure that the main holds pressure and does not have leaks. What will still be closed is all the individual service lines attached to that line. And that would be where whether the association would take it upon themselves to request all of those service lines be open. I think our preference would be that individual property owners would call us so that they are there to prevent any catastrophic damage to their property.
Yep.
But that would be, we will open the main valve, and then the individual meters valves would be at the request of the property owner.
Okay, all right. Sounds good. Thank you.
Diana, I have a
And
question from the,
okay. Yep,
Go ahead.
I have a question from the audience. How do we contact an association to talk about water? Phone and email address. The contractor is there now. We are on Captiva Drive, not a side street. This is someone who's in Captiva Shores.
Okay. We're not working on individual service lines right now. We're working on pressurizing the entire distribution system of Sanibel and Captiva. So we will not be going out to turn on individual meter connections right now.
Okay.
It will be once we establish full service, islands wide.
Okay.
Okay, but Diana, I understood you to say that you think you're going to be in a position of in about 7 days to start turning on individual homeowners' water supply. Did I hear that correctly?
At the current pace, that looks like a reasonable time frame. Yes.
Okay.
Diana, this is Tony from Tween Waters. We have 3 meters, and when the water did come on, he basically went in and did all the repairs and locked up any leakage at all. So, and I know we have people starting to stay there. Will that water remain on, or will it be shut off?
I'm not aware of Tween Waters having been turned on.
Well, what I'm saying is when it got pressurized, the main line, we went and shut off all of our meters. We have 3 meters, 2 2-inches and 1 4-inch. And we opened up one at a time and checked all the lines for any leakage. And then my crew, my understanding, that they reopened them. Now, I don't know if you're shut us off from the street or how that works. I'm not sure.
We would have had to turn those valves off as we pressurized Captiva Drive. If your crew did reopen those, that was not something that Island Water crew would have done. We would have assumed that they are still shut.
Yeah, well, I know my guys have been out there every day, and I think the next question I have, when the water does come back on, is this obviously paddleable? You want to know what I'm saying? Drinkable water.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I appreciate it. No, the water is not boil water.
You broke up.
It will be an extensive process. So when we get water to meters, apologize for the background noise. Once individual members are requesting water service to their homes, it is still non-potable. We will make a very extensive education campaign when that water is potable again, but that is sometime in the future.
Okay, thank you.
We still have to run compliance samples and flush 100+ miles of water main and detect residuals, and it's a very complicated and long process to do that.
And when you've in 7 days time, Diane, it's Bruce McDonald here. Would you expect the gallons per minute and the PSI to get back to the levels pre-hurricane, or would you still think it'll be limited?
So our gallons per minute will be very much dependent on how quickly we can get new equipment to bring up more wells. Until that happens, what we have now is probably our max capacity. So we're at the mercy of well cabinet equipment for that. The second part of the question is regarding the pressure. We will slowly increase pressure. We don't want to shock our system. So going from the 45 pounds to what you would typically see as maybe 65 pounds on Captiva, pounds per square inch, will be a gradual process so that we're not jarring our system. But that would be something that we would start doing once the system is fully activated.
Okay. And is the equipment that you need to get the wells up and running, is that something that like FEMA or some of these resources can help you procure?
We believe so, and we plan on putting our list in today to get those components. We had to list all the components that we know we can't repair currently in-house. So that list should be going out this afternoon.
Okay, excellent. Thank you.
So as I understand, the bottom line here is that for the next 7 days, individual property owners should not be doing anything to turn on the water because it would interfere with the Island Waters Association's efforts to pressurize the whole system and provide water for all of Captiva. Once that is done, then individuals can request that water be turned on to their individual properties. But for the next week, we're asking no one to use water unless you're an emergency vehicle, emergency purpose, or if the fire department or someone who needs the water. But until such time as the whole system is pressurized in the next week, individual property owners should not be turning on their meters to use water.
Yes, correct. Thank you.
And if you do, don't drink it.
Yes, absolutely.
Jay,
I would make one more comment, and I had heard, I'm not sure who said this, but I appreciated the comment, and I'm going to reiterate it, is as, excuse me, as homeowners and contractors are removing debris from the homes, do not cover the meter box because that will delay our ability to turn on your meters if we have to dig through debris and cut through, vegetation and construction debris to access those meters to turn them on. So please, that concrete or fiberglass box in front of your home, please keep it free and clear.
Ken, can you hear me?
yes.
Yeah, something just happened to my screen. Some ad came on from Zoom. I don't know what the.
Well, don't buy it. It's probably a scam.
I know it. I'm trying to figure out how I can get out of this.
Mike Zwicky needs to leave shortly. If you want to report from him, you may want to put him up next.
Okay, Mike, go ahead, please.
Jay, we can
Okay,
hear
great.
you. We can see you.
Can everybody hear me?
Yeah. Hey, Mike.
Okay. Outstanding. I'll try to burn through a couple of points real quick and try to make it as brief as I can. First, before I get into that, for those who haven't already heard me say it, Captiva Fire Department absolutely kicked ass getting this road open. I mean, when they came in here, it was a tangle of power lines, a tangle of down trees. Some of them were huge. Those giant fig trees and the Australian pines. And by like day 2, we could move something the size of a fire truck from the main marina all the way to the Blind Pass Bridge. Those guys worked tirelessly, and the amount of work that they did, and Chris and Christine, really just nothing short of heroic. And because Jeff is gone, I can say nice things about firefighters and not worry about them knowing that I did it. The most important thing that I can give you guys here, for those that aren't on the island and haven't seen how it is and how it's probably going to be over the next couple of weeks, the island's basically a giant job site, or is getting ready to become one. So what I would say is, if you're moving things off of the properties, do not put anything on the paved surface of the roadway. We've already had a couple of places where we've had to move things back out of the way. Those linemen, when they were on their trucks and they have the braces down, they take up more than a lane of travel. So if there's a bunch of stuff piled on the road, we can't get vehicles by, I mean, even the size of a police car, much less a fire truck. So it's very important that the entire width of that roadway is clear. So just don't pile anything up on there. If there is stuff in the roadway, we're going to move it off. And because the next closest place for us to move it to is probably your driveway, we're not going to be happy that we have to do the work of moving it. And you're not going to be happy that you have to do the work of putting it back again or paying somebody twice to do it. So please just, if you're talking to contractors or clearing your own property, just make sure you don't block the road in any way. We also want to restrict a lot of the unnecessary traffic on the roadway. So if you have contractors or you're out here visiting, try to confine your activities as much as possible to your property or to properties that you have an interest in being on. If you're bored being out here, go back into town. If you're curious about things, go read a book. But just try to stay off of the road. Try to keep things clear for the people that are out here working. Everybody's going 1,000 miles an hour out here to do exactly what we said we're going to do, which is to stabilize this island so everybody can come back and get things back to, whatever level of normalcy we can expect in that time frame. A reminder that the curfew is still in effect for Captiva, and we are enforcing it. It's 9 p.m. to 6 a.m. I have a lot of additional deputies out here on Sanibel. We have a checkpoint down at the bridge. I also have Florida Fish and Wildlife Commission out here, both on vehicles and out on the water. I've specifically tasked them with patrolling Roosevelt Channel and up to like Safety Harbor, especially at night. We've had a couple of people say that marine electronics have gone missing off of boats. Obviously, we don't know when that happened. That could have been just before the storm. So the timeline's a little unclear, but we are trying to monitor that as carefully as possible to prevent that from being a problem. To that end, if you're going to be out on the island, your access, make sure you have permission to use it. We're being tough on people that are just picking a dock to use. If your dock is damaged, get with one of your neighbors and see if you can use theirs. Don't be on any properties that you don't have specific permission to be on, and don't get caught holding or carrying anything that doesn't belong to you or you don't have permission to have. And if you could convey that to contractors, to workers and things like that, it'd be enormously helpful to us and streamline our processes. As more people are out here, it becomes harder for us to discern who belongs and who doesn't. When it was just us out here, anybody moving, it was easy to stop and figure out what they were doing. If you have large work crews coming out, if they're wearing a shirt that helps to identify who they are and what they're doing, and maybe what contractor that they're working for, it makes it harder for us to verify that they are in the right place or that they belong out here. Maybe even providing a letter to the superintendent of that job site detailing who's there and who the contact person is for that property would also be very helpful for us, just to verify that people are, who they say they are, and belong where we find them. Let's see here. Also, if you're doing work around the properties, make sure to exercise that extra bit of caution. Since there is no causeway, there is no ambulance service off the island. So everything is likely to become a very expensive helicopter ride. So people are using chainsaws and tools to clear property as they're moving tangles of things. Make sure we're not overextending. Don't take any additional risks. Again, I mean, these injuries can delay things that we're doing as well. So I think if everybody's doing their part to stay out of each other's way, to stay where we're supposed to be, and to be really careful, then we can keep up a lightning fast pace and, try to get people back out here doing their thing.
Hey, Mike, if I can add one thing to that too, thank you very much. But if you are going to be there on your property, PPE, make sure you have boots on. This is not a tennis shoe playground environment, trust me. And then I would have an N95 mask or similar when you're going into an enclosed environment that's been, that's been closed up for a week to 10 days now, because I know when I left there a couple of days later, I started getting respiratory issues and everything else. But I mean, our entire team, we're pumping the PPE and getting everybody out there. So just, be safe, simply be safe. As it relates to access on our island, South Seas, and we've helped a lot of Captivians as well. You know, again, email me. I have a team working with me now that's giving confirmation of permission rights into our marina. Transportation to your home might be an issue, but we're all working together and trying to help each other out. I know last count we had over 225 homeowners that came through with South Seas, as well as 120 Hilton Grand Vacation units to look at, and I probably have a dozen outside the gate that have used that service, and it's really worked well. They're coming down with the confirmation that Mike's included on them, fire and life safety is included on them, so it's just so much easier if you've handled it that way. Sorry, Mike.
Yeah, and if you're going to be on your property doing work, just like with the PPE, try not to be there alone. I mean, there are a lot of things that are dangerous still. There's a lot of hanging trees and brush, or widow makers, as they're sometimes called in the forestry business. So we want to be careful for that stuff. We want to watch for generators that might backfeed and power a line. There's a lot of things, you know, if there's any structural instability. So it's a good idea that if you're if you have to be there by yourself, make sure you have somebody designated to check in with regularly. That way, if something happens for you, because we've already searched these properties, they've been considered to be cleared. And as people come back, we don't really have a reason to go back on them to look for somebody. So make sure somebody knows you're there. And if there's multiple people there, maybe leave somebody designated a little bit outside, that if there is an emergency, somebody's able to go for help. And what Bob was saying about the PPE and the masks, for those who have not visited the island, when we got here, the whole island was covered in a very, very slippery, fine, silty sludge. It was like the first couple days out here were like working in an ice skating rink. And then it transitioned to kind of be like peanut butter. And now it's dried out. And as vehicles are moving, all of that fine silt is aerating. And we really don't know what's in it. You know, it could be some combination of fine silica dust and E. coli from septic. I mean, there's no knowing. So I would proceed in an abundance of caution being out here and around the island, and especially if you're on an open vehicle or near a road where this stuff is getting kicked up. These masks are, we're probably all familiar with them from the last couple of years, from the last 2 or 3 seasons of life in Captiva with COVID. So keep those things and use them out here on the island would be my recommendation.
Mike, question from the audience. Can they overnight in their own home?
Right now, there's nothing that forbids them from doing that. Nothing that I'm aware of. But if they commit to being out here on the island overnight, they have to stay on that property. We're not joking around about this. If we find people creeping around after curfew, if we find people with stuff they shouldn't have, we'll take away your toys and we'll put you in timeout for as many months as we have to make sure you're out of the equation out here so we can get this done.
Hey, Ken, answer that. I've had a couple of homeowners that want to stay for a few nights. I've discouraged it, but we can't prevent it. But I've then looped Mike and the fire department involved, so they know exactly where those homeowners are, what homes they're in, et cetera.
That was a question that just came in afterwards to say, should they identify themselves to you and to Mike if they're coming on?
They're coming
would
on.
Be helpful.
Yes.
Yes. Short answer, yeah, that would be good.
Mike, in my discussions with the county, my understanding is when the bridge is open, there will have to be identification of one sort or the other, whether it be hurricane passes or property passes or driver's license or whatever, before you can come over the bridge and get onto Sanibel and then Captiva. I also have been told that when they have a ferry service, there's also going to be identification required to go on the ferry. When they're working on some protocols for that now, you should be involved in that so that it works for you as well as for anyone else that's getting on the ferry, because they will all have to have identification, be it contractors, insurance adjusters, or property owners, before they can go on the ferry and get off on the island.
Yeah, I think that's a wise idea. I know after Irma, when they did not institute that program, we spent a lot of time chasing after just random people that were showing up out here to, well, I mean, who knows what their intentions were. Some of them were kind of dodgy characters, but we just had people out here wandering around. And that really did slow things down and took us away from more productive uses of our time. So I would say that if that's a policy decision, obviously not one that I make, but it's certainly a recommendation that I would endorse is to restrict access to necessary visits.
Okay.
Okay, any other questions for our sheriff?
Yeah, I just want to say something that, the sheriff is complimenting the fire department, but I think we also have to compliment the sheriff.
Oh, absolutely.
And they've been, between the fire department and the sheriff's department, they have taken control of the island and got us on the road back. And I know they're working on the days off. They're working sometimes without uniforms. I shouldn't have said that, I guess, but they are working extremely closely together, living together actually, and they made a tremendous amount of difference. And I think that Mike's people have been terrific. So I just want everybody to know that.
That's an excellent point, David. Captiva has been blessed with having, tremendous leadership, and with both Jeff Powell and Mike Zawicki for, the sheriffs and the fire department respectively. They're just a wonderful resource and so appreciative.
Thank you very much for that. And now that we've got the washer and dryer out of my house set up at the fire station, that has vastly improved our lives.
Okay, is there anything else for our sheriff?
There is one quick question. How should they contact you, Mike, if they're going to come on? Should it go through Bob and he'll get it to you? Or?
Bob, if it's just letting us know they're coming, especially if they're coming through South Seas, that would be fine. Bob's been CCing me on the emails. Of course, just about everybody in here has my phone number, so they can shoot me a text or something too, or instead, if they're coming through a private property. I try to keep up with them the best that I can, but either way is fine.
Okay, give them their cell number just so they got it again, please.
Sure. It's area code 239-281-7210.
Thanks.
Bob, Walter, could I ask you to clarify something? My understanding is that if you're not a South Seas owner, and you want to come on the island, you are to hire, or people are hiring private captains or people they know with boats and a landing that they have authorization to land at. I thought you had suggested, maybe I misheard, that some people who are not South Seas residents or owners are coming through South Seas and then going to their properties out of South Seas. Is that happening? And if that's true, okay, if that's true, how do they get permission to dock a boat? Say they hire a captain. Can the captain dock his boat or drop somebody off at the big marina?
Yes, absolutely. That's exactly the process. Send me an email at bwalter@southseas.com. I've got a group working for me now that then will kick out a confirmation number with your date of arrival, estimated time, captain. It goes to Charles. We people together a master list net, and we give it to Charles and Life Safety Daily, so they know exactly what the influx of people are coming that day, that particular time, and everything. Yeah, we're here to help everybody.
Okay, and then they'll get some sort of possible transportation from the north end of South Seas to wherever they're going?
That's the hiccup. Right now, it's hitch a ride with a buddy type thing. We just don't have all the vehicles to get it done. That's one of the things we have in with the county to request that trolley system sooner than later.
Okay.
So once we get more staff on island, I think that's, we've got more staff coming on island. We're just, again, trying to get them consistently out there in a safe manner. And then that'll get better. I mean, that way we do have a vehicle or two that we could probably get a couple drivers out there and help and assist. But it's just gonna take some time. We want to get security out there as well to assist, manning the gate and that's everything, and helping Mike and his team and Jeff and their teams. We just need to get it out there on a consistent basis, and that's our 12:30 with Pamela.
Okay, great.
Bob, if somebody wants to land at South Seas, what is the procedure to get permission to do so? Again, do they call you? Is that?
Send me an email at bwalter@southseas.com, with a little bit
Email?
of information, bwalter@southeast.com. And for example, hey, I own XYZ home on Sandcap Road or Captiva Drive. I'd like to dock in your main marina. You know, I plan on coming on Tuesday the 15th or anything like that. Any information you can give us to start it off. I'll drop it off to my team. They'll send you whatever details they're missing, and then we'll put back a confirmation letter to you that you can print out and have on you. That way, if you know life safety or somebody stops you, you've got that confirmation from me or from our team. And then we'll take it from there. And then everybody else is copied on a master list. Life safety, our marina team, everybody.
Okay, so the starting point, if you want to dock at South Seas, is to send an email to bwalter@southseas.com.
Correct. And I will say, a lot of people have asked me if they could go into Bayside. Bayside's still a question mark. You know, we haven't gotten down there and triple checked the debris in the marina. We had divers in our main marina, so we're comfortable now knowing that that debris is now gone. But I have told people, listen, if you're coming out with a local charter like an Ozzy Fisher or somebody like that, and Ozzy's your captain, I know Ozzy well enough that we're allowing Ozzy to do one-offs to Bayside, that sort of thing, just
Okay.
because he understands that marina.
Yes.
Mike, another question that came in is how many deputies do you have patrolling the island now?
We are we're right about a dozen between us and Sanibel, plus we're being supplemented by looks like most nights probably 6 or 8 FWC officers as well out on the islands, just kind of making their way up and around. Chris, Christine, and I are just up here. I mean, primarily, I guess I shouldn't say just up here. We're primarily here on Captiva. All 3 of us are working every day. We've been on, I think I started work on the 25th, and we've been working straight through. We're still going strong. So no worries there. We're keeping an eye on stuff.
Well, that's an important question, Mike, because there seems to be confusion about what resources you have for Captiva. And we've heard that there are 2 shifts of 8 or 12 deputies for Sanibel and Captiva. But I think the question was on Captiva itself, do you just have 3 people who are working full-time without days off? And do we need more resources to protect Captiva beyond the 3 of you?
Well, right now, the main reason why it's good to have the 3 of us is that we understand the island. We know most of the people, so we can save a lot of time by recognizing a lot of the people who we know in the community and knowing that they belong where they are and are doing what they're supposed to be doing. It doesn't complicate things by having to have, deputies constantly checking and rechecking everybody. But we have them as a resource to pull from. There's deputies manning checkpoints on Sanibel, and we have deputies on roving patrol down there. They are coming up through here. And like I said, they're manning the checkpoint there at the Blind Pass Bridge. So that really isolates movement on and off of Captiva to Sanibel to where everything that is coming and going is being observed by law enforcement. And again, like I said, the FWC, their officers are roving again between Sanibel and Captiva. So I feel like the law enforcement presence is pretty good up here for the current level of activity. As we move into a phase where we have a lot of workers out here, I mean, if it starts taking on a frontier mining town type of character out here for a while, then we may need to supplement with more deputies. But for now, I think we're in pretty good shape with what we have. Me and Chris and Christine, our spirits are high. I mean, we're out here doing what we're supposed to do. We feel good about the work we're doing here in the community. And if they need a break, I'll rotate them out. But for now, we're just plugging straight.
Okay.
Okay, anything further for Mike Sawicki?
I think Tony has a question.
Yeah,
Yes,
not for
Tony.
Mike. Actually, it goes back to Bob and access to people. If we're trying to get people farther up on Captiva near the Gold Coast or whatever, I don't know what the situation, I know my docks are okay, but I know we've been renting them out to some other people. But fishing guides, if they email me at my email, I'd be more than happy to let them come ashore where we do our kayak rentals. I mean, people that, where I'm talking about, Mike. but I'd like to
Yeah,
know
sure.
who's coming on, and then I can tell it to the people like Will, who's out there at Twin Waters. So if they want to email me for permission or call me on my phone, I don't mind.
Okay. If that, as that comes in, we'll do it. And of course, I know at some point, once you guys are up, like, Bob and Tony and whatever, once you're at the ability to start instituting your normal security apparatus as well, then that'll be some more eyes on the island. And of course, we'll make sure that they have good communication with us, and can call us. We can respond at a moment's notice if there's something going on around the island. We've been interdicting basically everybody we see coming in. We're trying to make sure everybody has a little bit of FaceTime with us, for better or worse, either for reassurance that we are able to help them if they need anything, or for discouragement if they're, out here for a neutral to nefarious purpose.
Okay, Tony, what would be the contact information for people that want to get permission to land at Twin Waters?
They could call me on my cell or text me. It's 239-410-7795. They could text me, they could do an email, but I think texting is probably going to be easier, don't you think?
Okay, so text Tony if you wanted to have, if you're like a fishing guide or somebody
Yeah.
want to land at Twin Waters.
Yeah, because they can come up on the beach that way. The docks may
Right.
be full, I don't know. So, but there's certainly just to come across and land on there,
Okay.
that's where we would be. Okay.
All right. Okay,
Okay, yeah, anything else for me?
I don't think so. Thank you so much, Mike, for doing this. So appreciative.
All right, well, I'm gonna get back at it then. If anybody has any questions, feel free to call me at that number. We're available all the time, and thank you again for everybody. We got a lot of texts and emails and calls from people when we first got out here. We had no phones for probably close to 48 hours. So I was receiving your texts and they were very much appreciated. And I apologize to anybody I haven't got to respond to yet, but again, thank you, everybody. We appreciate it.
Okay, thank you. Okay,
All
I
right.
think we want to move on to an update on the beaches from Daniel Munt. Daniel, are you here? Or Nicole Sharp?
Hi, good morning. Both Nicole and I are here. I'll give a brief update prior to turning it over to Nicole. It's good to see everybody again, of course, after the hurricane. My well wishes are for everybody that resides on the island. Quick update, in response to Hurricane Ian, the CEPD has declared a local post-disaster state of emergency. This allows the CEPD to continue somewhat normal operations post-storm, and it allows us to help expedite response to post-storm by allowing myself and the chairman to exceed typical spending limits. We use this to enact our first response in our emergency response plan. It's a plan that's been developed since around 1999 and it was subsequently updated in 2012. There's several steps in the CEPD's emergency response plan that must be followed, and they're currently underway. APTM, the Army Corps of Engineers, Carrie Schumann and I have already conducted a visual assessment of Captiva Beach. It's been severely eroded. The rock revetments that line Captiva Drive in the late 80s are once again visible. Carrie Schumann sent out a Dropbox link to, I believe it was distributed to everybody. But if anybody would like that, they can reach out to me and I'll certainly forward that along. I just want to say, well, it's unfortunate the beach has eroded. It's definitely deflated, and Nicole will get into that shortly. The importance of the beach management at Captiva is clearly evident more now than maybe ever. But the beach performed as it was designed to do. Had the CPD not built the beach up by over 10 feet and included the vast dune system, I just can't imagine how much worse off the island of Captiva would have been. Without any further ado, I'd like to turn it over to Nicole to present the findings of our visual assessment. But just one last important stress of how important these beaches are and how much protection they provided the island. So.
Okay, great. Thank you, Daniel. Nicole?
All right, thank you, Dan. And I'd like to reiterate Daniel's comments that, our thoughts have been with everyone on the island since we saw the storm was coming with you. And we're very fortunate that Captiva, did fare a lot better than Sanibel. And I think a lot of it's attributed to the work that everyone's done, the panel, the CEPD, and, trying to make the island as resilient as it can be. So I'm going to share my screen right now. I have a few pictures of what we did take when we got out there last Monday on our visual assessment. So give me a moment. Oh, I can't share my screen. So now I can. All right. Yeah. All right, can everyone see what I have on the screen?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So I'm going to go over our visual beach assessment that we did last Monday. So that was, about 7 days ago, what we saw right after the storm. So we went out there as soon as it was safe to get there after, search and rescue did clear the island. So just to reiterate what Dan mentioned before, that Lee County as a whole did experience substantial damages, both to their coastline and structural damage. So this was a very powerful storm. As you can see right here, these are the preliminary storm surges from the Fort Myers gauge. You can see that the tide was 7.5 feet above what was planned. So all that water did impact the coastal area of Captiva and Sanibel and the surrounding areas. Typically, we utilize the Fort Myers and Naples gauge, but the Naples gauge went down around 1 to 2 p.m. So we don't know the true storm stage there, but here you can see this is a pretty good estimate of what you did see in your area. So when we got out there on the beach, we first took a boat ride and looked at the whole island from the water, just because, as it's been mentioned, there's not a lot of docking facilities and a lot of the docks weren't cleared yet. So we did find one location where we deemed it safe to get on the island, and that was around the center of the island near Jensen's Curve. So we were able to look north and look south. And when we were out there and when we were on the boat, we did see that there was a visible transfer of sand from the dry portion of the beach where you and I would lay out into the water, into the shore bar. So there's definitely a large impact to the beaches. One of the most noticeable things when I stepped on your beach, it's dramatically lower or deflated than it was. So maybe about 3 feet in some areas. So there was substantial loss of elevation on the beach. In addition to beach width, it's now a little bit narrower than it was. Also, the dunes, we did have substantial impacts to the dunes. Not only were the dunes eroded, but we did lose some of the vegetation that's been there from the 2021 project, the 2013 project, and it looks like some of the vegetation planted from the 05-06 project and previous projects may have been impacted. But we did notice a lot of overwash. So I know as a lot of you guys are going to be coming on the island, there's going to be a lot of sand that's shifted from the beach into upland properties. So this is typical after storms. We do see that sand is shifted by the large force of the waves moving everything around. Also, as Daniel mentioned, a lot of Captiva is protected by usually a buried rock revetment, and it really wasn't exposed. In recent times, in the 1980s and previous, yes, the rock revetment was exposed. So you can currently see the rock revetment just south of Hegrip Park and about 3,000 feet south of Jensen's Curve. So the good thing, the rock revetment is there and it did help to protect the road also. And when we are looking at the island as a whole, we did note that the north end of the island seemed to do a little bit better than the south end. So it may have been how the sediment was moving due to the storm, and the Redfish Pass terminal groin helped hold sand there a little better. We also did place a little bit higher fill densities on that portion of the island too during the 2021 project. So that could have been a part of why we see a better shoreline response there. But overall, as a whole, there was definitely impacts to the whole entire beach. So here I'm going to go into some pictures of what we saw out there. But as Daniel mentioned, yes, we're going to see a lot of erosion in these pictures, but the beach did its job. It did what it was designed to do. It was to help protect the area against storm surge. It was to absorb that wave energy, let the beach or let the waves eat away at the shoreline versus hitting your home. So we're going to see some erosion in these pictures, and you're going to see some dramatic erosion, but it really did help protect your upland infrastructure. And I think it's really important to note that if this project wasn't in place, I think we would have seen substantial damage to the property's upland. So this property is a little bit south of the curve near Jensen's. So here you can see the dune losses that I've been talking about, the loss of vegetation, the loss of that elevated dune, and you can see the exposed rock revetment. So this is just one of the areas that we looked at. Here you can see kind of where we were, where we've been, and where we are now. So this, the picture on the upper left, you can see was pre-construction. So really there was only a rock revetment protecting the road. Subsequent nourishment projects have protected the road through a wide beach and dunes. And you can see that in October 2022, post-storm, you do have a beach there. It's a lot lower than it was. It's not as wide as it was. But a lot of the impacts we're seeing are in the dunes. The dunes were substantially eroded from the storm. So here you can see that exposed rock revetment that we've been discussing here. And based upon our visual assessments, we didn't get to walk as far south as I wanted. It looks again like it's about 3,000 feet of this rock revetment that is exposed. Here you can see just stepping back a little bit from that angle. This arrow is pointing to the arrow at the curve. And then here you can see the White House and the power line in each of the pictures as a comparison. So again, you see the loss of width. There is some dry beach still there, but it's definitely lower, and the large impact to the dunes and dune vegetation. Here's another angle of the beach. Here we're looking south towards Tween Waters, and you can just use this light pole. It's a reference point in each photograph. So you can see the extensive dune vegetation that was in place, the dune, and then the wide beach. And here you can see, yes, we still do have some beach. It's definitely been eroded and loss of width and the impacts to the dune. One thing you're going to note in some of these pictures, you do see some of the sand that looks like it's piled up or stacked. That is where the fire department did clear the roads and placed it alongside the beach. So the storm didn't do that. It's just in response to the fire department's activities to clear the road. But eventually over time, if we follow proper DEP procedures and rules, we can sort that sand and we can put it back in the dunes. So it's important that we do a post-storm assessment survey next. So that's where I'm going to go into where are we going now. We've done the visuals assessment. We've done step 1 of the emergency response plan. So now we have to move further parts into motion. So the next step is doing something called a beach profile survey. So it involves having a survey crew out there, and they measure the offshore portion of the beach profile using a boat. It looks similar to this. So if you see something like this on the island, they're out there doing work, trying to measure what condition your beach is in the wet portion of the beach profile. We'll also have a survey crew out there. They're going to be holding RTK GPS units that look like the picture on the right. And the goal of this is to get data. And this data will be used, as you can see the plot on the left, to create a beach profile comparison. And we use this to see how much did the beach erode or how much did the beach accrete. So here you can see 2 different profiles that are taken at 2 different points in time. And the green means this profile eroded, and the red means this profile, or the green means it accreted, the red means it eroded. So our goal of performing this survey is to compare it to the survey that was conducted in November of 2021 and see how much loss we did have on the island. And from that, we're able to quantify it and start coordinating with FEMA. So as Captiva's beaches are maintained, they are eligible for a certain type of FEMA funding. And this FEMA funding is 75% federal government and then a 25% local cost share. It's important to note when I say local, it doesn't mean CEPD. It means you can get funding from the state. Sometimes they put out appropriations following the storm. We saw this during Hurricane Irma. Lee County can be a cost sharing partner in it, and also the CEPD. So you can reduce that 25% by partnering with local entities. And when we do go to FEMA, we'll have all the survey information that we can quantify. This is the volume that we saw lost from both the dunes, the dry beach, and the offshore portion of the profile. And then we'll work with you not only to get that sand replaced, along with your dune vegetation that was taken away during the storm. So there's a lot of funding partners, as you can see, FEMA being the biggest one that we'll be pursuing at the moment. DEP will be coordinating with to help with the local cost share. And then also, as Daniel mentioned, the Army Corps of Engineers was out at on the visual assessment survey with us. So as we know, in the 2013 project, the Army Corps of Engineers did walk away from the project due to some concerns due to easements and public accessibility. However, this could potentially open the door to re-engage them as a funding partner. So that's where we're heading right now in developing this project worksheet, a post-storm engineering report to fully address the impacts of Hurricane Ian on Captiva Island.
Okay,
So
so
with that-
Nicole, yeah, are you saying that we're not necessarily going to have to go through another whole beach renourishment program, that we can get using FEMA?
So-
Our beach largely repaired?
Yes, so FEMA is a 75% cost share partner in response to declared emergencies, which did occur in Lee County. So that is the route we're pursuing right now.
Okay.
I do not think it's going to be as large scale as the recent project, but it's still going to be a large quantity of sand that was taken off the beach.
Right.
And that
Okay,
also covers dune renourishment, Nicole?
Yes, yes. So as part of the FEMA worksheet, we'll document the dunes that were constructed historically and with the 2021 project, and go after that for funding too, because they were engineered and designed as a feature for storm protection, and they were impacted due to the direct impacts from the passage of Hurricane Ian. So they are eligible for replacement.
Can I make a comment here? A couple comments.
please.
I'm a recent member of the CEPD, so I had nothing really to do with this last beach nourishment. Consequently, I can say whatever I want, I think, but I would like to give so much thanks to the CEPD and Aptum for what they have done for our beaches, because they performed exactly as we had hoped and protected the island from so much more damage. And now what I see from Nicole and Daniel is their approach to going forward. We have an approach. They know what they're doing. I'm expecting, and Nicole is leading exactly what we should be doing, such that we can get the optimal or the maximum amount of funding to restore our beaches as soon as possible to be able to protect the island. So what I'm doing here is thanking CEPD, which I did not do anything at all, and Aptum for all their work they have done, and telling you all, I've got confidence in them going forward.
Well, this is outstanding news. I mean, before you came on, Nicole, I just assumed that our whole beach renourishment was wiped out, and we're going to have to just start all over again and do another beach renourishment program. And you know, so what you're saying is just outstanding news. And
Nicole, can I ask you a question, Nicole?
Yes.
yeah,
Yeah. In addition to seeing where the dunes were affected by the storm and where the sand was lost, it seems evident to me, just impressionistically, that there were certain areas on Captiva that suffered far greater storm surge than other areas, maybe not necessarily related to the loss of sand or dunes. Is there an effort when you do your analysis, can you take a look at what areas, like for example, Andy Rossi Lane had 4 or 5 feet of water pouring down Andy Rossi Lane. You can see all the sand going down there. White Man Leica had 5 feet of storm surge in people's houses. Is there a way when you do your analysis to see where the existing storm surge, where the weak points were on the island, where the storm surge took place? And when you do the new renourishment, somehow, if possible, figure out a way to better protect those areas that are most susceptible to storm surge.
So yes, we are working to try to identify which areas received higher surges or were more vulnerable to surge. That may not be done with the immediate engineering report, as we need to get it into FEMA as quickly as possible. But as you know, we're working on the vulnerability assessment, and we've created a new chapter of that where we're going to try to revisit high water marks and compare what we thought was going to happen with visual observations that we've seen through photographs or people's documentary that did stay on the island, or high water marks. So we're going to be utilizing that to almost try to ground truth what we saw from our modeling versus what we did see with Ian. So we are trying to somehow correlate surges to what happened, predicted surges, and potential mitigation that we can do in the future.
That'd be great. Thank you.
And
Nicole,
also,
there's a
I mean-
question from the audience about if we have to do another beach renourishment, what the timetable would be for that, working with FEMA.
So we have to get our request into FEMA very quickly. So typically we like to get it in within 90 days to FEMA to make sure we're in the line. Within the CEPD's Emergency Response Plan Authority, they technically can enact a plan within 90 days. However, they also have the authority to pursue different funding partners with FEMA, partnerships with FEMA or the DEP, and that can allow them to extend the 90 days. So FEMA has said they can be committed to expediting projects. So I think that's where, you know, we'll really be working with community members, panel members, our hired lobbyists to push our request in FEMA, seeing if it can be one of the expedited projects, noting the vulnerability of being a barrier island for an upcoming, you know, for the remainder of hurricane season and for the next hurricane season. So my crystal ball looking into FEMA is a little bit hazy, as we all know, but I think we have a great team together and we know there's an expedited process for FEMA funding. And I think we have a lot of commitment at, you know, the local district level, community level, and county level that we can really push to make sure this project does happen as quickly as possible. Historically, I've seen FEMA take about 6 to 8 months. I hope, noting the necessity for repairs, that FEMA will be a lot quicker with the expedited process that they did state that they're willing to accommodate communities with. So we've seen historic timeframes be 6 to 8 months, but I think we're going to work to push to make that go a lot quicker.
Another question that came in was about the sand that's been pushed under houses. What do you need to do to be, if you can restore that to the beach, what do you have to do with it?
So right now, the DEP has a lot of restrictions on putting sand on the beach. It can be done, but the sand has to be free of debris. The sand has to be sorted. And we don't want any sand to go on the beach quite yet until we do the post-storm survey, because we really want to document how the beach is currently. Some of the sand that does get pushed upland will really never be recovered. We can't extract all of that. So we'll try to accommodate as much as we can in our surveys, such as the piles that are along Sandcap Road, you know, in front of, you know, the curve and by Tween Waters, fronting the golf area. But in the immediate time frame, I would say the sand will probably have to remain for a temporary time, but then coordination will probably have to happen with Daniel. We'll have to coordinate with the DEP, and it'll need some type of sorting mechanism to make sure there's no debris or anything that we don't want going on the beaches.
Hey, Nicole, can I add to that? And the key, what Nicole said, is whether the sand's compromised or not. And I can tell you, after being on island, a lot of the stuff that's washed up under houses, et cetera, is compromised. It's got landscaping debris in it. It's got all sorts of other stuff in it. I'm working with island management and other homeowner associations within the Gates of South Seas, as well as Native Landscaping, who does most of the landscaping out there. And John Johnson and I have a call who owns Native. And what we're doing is, if he begins removing that sand, we're asking him to put it on our west lawn. He has an aerial of a shot where he can unload that. So within the Gates of South Seas, we've got an answer to, hopefully in the next week to 10 days, we'll start moving a lot of that sand out of there.
I don't think we want to take it off island if at all possible. We want
to take it off island. We're going to put it on our golf course.
Right. No,
we lost a lot of golf course.
That was in general, not for South Seas.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay. In terms of where there were weaknesses, my gut reaction, not technical, is that there were places such as Andy Rossi Lane where the dunes were not in great shape, and we had a lot of tourists on them. We kept trying to protect them. I believe in the future, what we're going to want to do is perhaps have overpasses? Whatever. Overwalks onto the beach and design them in such a way to give us more protection. For example, have them curves or things like that. But what you see frequently is where there was beach access, there was more damage behind those places. I'm not sure about like Elaine in that area about why that happened at all. I have no intuition about that.
Another question that came in, is the sand on the beach currently safe, as in free of contaminants?
So our beaches are hit by hurricanes all the time, and the water impacting the shoreline is constantly being flushed. So right now, we have not received any advisories from the Department of Health or the DEP that the beaches are compromised. So I was out on the beaches. I know other folks have been out on the beaches. I did not notice any presence of any harmful chemicals. But again, I would refer back to the Department of Health, and they can give you the, complete picture of what's going on offshore and if there's any concerns that you should be noting in the sand.
Nicole, it's David again. In addition to doing the analysis of the weak spots on the beach side, and I guess this is for Daniel and you, is there a way we can use this experience to evaluate the weaknesses on the bay side from the high water and the surge? Because
yes,
we've been predicting, what would happen, but now we have some real evidence. And it's a way we can either through a survey of property owners or however you do it, to figure out where those weak spots are on the bay side, since you're doing a vulnerability study, but now we have something more. We have that experience of what happened on the bay side. If there's something that and overlay that on the vulnerability study, that could be very helpful in future planning to protect the bay side. So that's the question I have.
Yes. So when we go in and look at both the ocean side, it will include the bay side too. We're trying to compare, all areas where water has an entranceway on the island and which portions of the island were most vulnerable and what we think are most vulnerable. So we'll be using, both sides of the island to compare.
Yeah, because it would be very important for us to understand. So for example, Binder Lane in the village, probably the lowest point on the island, and it was flooded as well as some of the other village streets. But we have no idea whether the water that flooded that Binder Lane and the houses in the village came from the Gulf, came from the bay, or came from the rains, or a combination thereof. If there's a way to figure that out and give us some empirical data, that I think would be helpful too.
Yes, so we're trying to look for as much data as possible. We did note that USGS did have storm surge sensors on the island. So if they were able to collect data, very key thing, if they did collect data, they could be a helpful resource. So we'll definitely be utilizing that and any type of visual observations that people who did stay on the island might have seen.
Terrific.
Okay. Any further questions for Nicole? Nicole, thank you for that outstanding report. Personally, I'm relieved to hear that, you have a plan going forward and you know what the steps are to do to try to get our beaches back to where they were. It's very reassuring to me to hear your report.
No problem, Jay.
I think we have one piece of panel business that we have to do. We put off all of our normal business because, it's not really actionable right now. All of our committee reports and so forth. But there is one matter that we do need to take care of today, and that is replenishing the panel for next year and the process for nominations. Linda or Ken, can you give us a quick briefing on where we are now and what the next step is?
I can start and Ken, you can fill in, okay? For the panel membership, the way it is designed is that we have a variety of representatives from across the island, such that we represent both business communities and residential. We have representation from a variety of different areas. So there are village representatives, there are the resort Gold Coast or whatever you want to call it area. And what we try to do is get a cross section of people such that the island is well represented. So we have different groups who nominate different people. 5 openings. One is from the CCA. This would be Ann Brady. It has been suggested and nominated by them.
Right, and they appoint her, so there's no approval process for Ann involving the panel. So she will be the CCA's appointment for the coming term.
Right.
Okay.
And then there's the Captiva Property Owners Association, who appoints 2. One is Sandy Stillwell, who is currently on the panel, and the other one is Marguerite Maville. So they will be joining the panel.
Right.
The third group is there are nominees from the panel. As part of our nominating committee, we are nominating John Jensen and Tony Lappy, who are currently serving on the panel and are available and have agreed to serve again. But this is one where if there are others from the community who would like to serve on it, they should make themselves known such that the panel can make a decision as to who they will nominate to be on the.
Right. If there are other people who wish to serve, they need to notify you, Linda. Is that correct?
Yes, either Ken or myself. And
Right.
notify me, and then we would have a process going forward to select.
Right. And they need to do that prior to the November meeting.
Ken, did you
And then
want-
at the December meeting, the full panel for the panel nominees will review the recommendation of the nominating committee plus others that have submitted applications to serve. And then at the December meeting, the panel will vote upon who should be the panel nominee. And we only have one panel nominee to replace. Is that correct?
Well, we have 2.
2. Okay, right.
Ken, did you want to add anything?
Yes, what we've typically done in the past is send out a solicitation through the email list, which has been getting a lot of business lately. So I haven't done that yet. I will send that out in the next probably week and see if there's anybody who wants to submit. And then those will be considered in November.
Right. Okay, are there any questions about that item we had to take care of?
Do we put anything on the website at all? If you're interested,
We
submit
usually
your
haven't.
applicant.
We haven't because we haven't had that much traffic to the website, but that obviously is going to change. Usually the email list gets us the most interest, but I can put it on the website as part of the other revisions that are being done today.
Okay, so Ken, you'll try to put it on the website, but at the very least, you will communicate to our email list that people who wish to serve on the panel can submit an application. And then that will be considered along by the panel, along with the panel's nominating committee, what their recommendation is.
Correct. And just to follow up on the website for a second, there have been a lot of questions about certain things, and we've discussed what we're going to be putting on the website because our usual webmaster, well, I'm usually doing it, but I'm not that good at it. Our usual webmaster was in South Fort Myers, so his life has not been his own for the last few weeks. Emily from the CCA has graciously agreed to help update the website. I got an email from her during the meeting that she's finished the drafts. I'll look at them this afternoon and we'll start putting up lists and other information that people have been asking about as soon as we can today and tomorrow. Additionally, this meeting will be posted on the website, and I'll also send it to the Storm Ready site for people who are used to using that as soon as it's been processed so that people who couldn't attend the meeting can hear it.
Okay, very good. Are there any other panel members? Is there any other comments that any panel members want to make before I ask for a motion to adjourn?
There's a.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say, hey, it's Bruce here. What about, I was gonna ask about timing of our next meeting in terms of.
Yes,
I think
my feeling on that is we should continue to plan on our normal panel meeting for November, but we will call special meetings as we think there is enough information to warrant having a special meeting.
It's important to note that every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, I'm putting out updates from everything that I gather from everybody that's presented. And that's going to Ken as well as everyone that I can get it to. So that information's out there.
Right. But we may decide, I don't know, in a week or so that there's been significant new developments that we need to, it would be worthwhile to have a meeting. For example, when we have more clarity on the temporary bridge and you know, who's allowed to do that, we might want to call a panel meeting to go through that.
Jay.
I mean, Jay, I recommend I think we should set up a weekly one, at least for next week, because it sounds like we're gonna have a substantial update on the power, substantial update on the causeway, substantial update on water.
I agree, Bruce. I think more rather than less is better. And if no one wants to attend, they don't have to. And if we can do it very quickly, that's fine too. But I would recommend one next week.
The only thing I want to say is the people that are very busy, like Chris Dorn and all these other folks, I mean, we don't want to bug them, but at the same time, they can give information like Bob or Ken, just pass it through. I mean, we can have the meeting if you want, just a thought.
You know, unless you all want to overrule me, I think we should call meetings as there is a need to have a meeting where we know we have significant information to communicate, as opposed to just have a regular meeting, because it does take time from these other people. You know, they've got their duties and so forth, and I don't want to interrupt them just because we want to have a meeting every week. I want to get them only when there's significant new developments to report. So
well, we can have a shortened list for next week, but I think Bruce's comment that enough is happening and things are moving quickly enough at this point that one for next week, I think would be useful. You see the number of people who came on for this meeting, which was over 200.
Right, but if we have nothing to report, I mean.
No, we know things are going to change, Jay. We know things are going to happen. And if we have things like the sheriff doesn't have anything new, don't have the sheriff show up. We can have a shortened list based upon what we think is important. But I believe it's very useful to communicate to the public, even beyond just written, and allow people to ask questions. That's
okay. Let's put
let
that
me
up
just-
to a vote. You know, do you want to have meetings as we need them, or do we want to set a meeting for this time next Tuesday? Regardless of what information we have to convey.
Jay?
Yes.
Ken Gill here. I've been quiet, absorbing all the information. It's apparent that as you requested timelines, that everybody was trying to give you the most favorable timeline they had, but they didn't really know.
Right.
So I think you should have the right to call a meeting when you and David get updates that you think are necessary to communicate to the community.
Yes, that is my feeling, but others disagree. And we are a democratic organization, and I want to run it in a way that the majority of people, you know, think. So the question is, you know, should we schedule, you know, a regular weekly meeting, or should we do meetings when, you know, we think we have significant new information to communicate?
Dave, one last comment. Let me just say one other thing.
Yes.
That the three major things we're looking at is water, electric, and when the bridge is going to open. Those are the three things that
Absolutely.
are really only concerned at this point. And that stuff can be related directly through Bob or you and through your relationships, you know, with Trish and these other folks. So, I mean, that is the three game makers right there. And,
Yes.
and that's really all we need to know at this point without getting into anything else. That's my thoughts, keeping the priorities. So do we need a meeting? If we don't have any more, you guys can, I mean, I can get a message from Bob's weekly thing that says, boom, we're going to have the bridge open. Here's the schedule of things that you can do and kind of go from there. Just my thoughts. And then I'll shut up.
I concur with Tony.
Okay, can I have a show of hands of people who prefer a regular meeting next week versus calling meetings as we have significant information to communicate? If you're in favor of having a meeting next week, raise your hand. If you're in favor of doing meetings when we have significant, on an impromptu basis, when we have significant information to report, raise your hand. Okay, I think the majority is in favor of calling meetings when we have significant information to report. And so that means we may call a meeting 3 days from now, or we may call a meeting 10 days from now. It depends on when we have significant information to report to the public.
So one other matter.
Yes.
We have a written report from Aptum. We also have the her presentation. Some people wanted to be able to get a copy. Ken, can we post both of those on the website and notify people they're there?
I've asked her to provide them. I'm assuming she will.
Oh, she said to me earlier she would.
Okay, then they'll be there.
Okay.
Okay, is there any other business that we want to tackle today?
Hey, Ken, have we answered all the questions? I still show 50.
Oh, yes. Are there any other outstanding questions?
There are some of them that we can answer probably, like Sanibel access rules. We don't know until we know the causeway issues, but we know that there will be considerations with that regard. There have been a couple questions about where people can get propane and get it delivered. That's tied to the bridge, number one, but two, we'll be including that on our bulletin board once we have that up and running. If people are providing it, we'll let people know where to go.
Hey, Ken, quick question on propane, because Bruce sent me a note on that, and I'm adding it to my Pamela conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Bruce, you mentioned for generators, do you need a propane truck type thing to come fill a generator, or the 20 gallons? Okay. So propane truck, all right.
There were a couple of questions I forwarded to you, Bob, because they were South Sea specific, such as surge height and some of that. If you didn't get them, I'll send them again. Who will clear the beach path adjacent to the chapel cemetery? That's kind of down the road. And a lot of them we have been addressed as we went along, as best as people can.
I think you should also ask Nicole research about the surge height too, to get her opinion.
Yeah, actually, I would defer to Nicole, frankly.
Okay.
And
I will ask her.
There's one comment. I use diesel. So if there's a diesel truck on the island, I'd sure like to know because I've run out of diesel fuel.
Yeah, Sandy, actually, there's emergency response bringing diesel out and stuff. But once we can get a way to transport it, I'll reach out to you.
Okay, and then yesterday I was in a Lee County Economic Development meeting because my offices in Fort Myers were flooded. And I just asked for like an industry standard. So if you had 4 feet of flooding, how high do you need to tear up the drywall, take out the, the insulation, et cetera. And so they said like 4 feet of flooding, they recommend fire service doing 8 feet. And the spot where my office is, I have a landlord there and he was only going up 1 more foot. So I was able to tell him about that, hey, while you're doing it, might as well just go up and do it right, because otherwise you're gonna have mold issues, et cetera, and I'm not gonna move back in. So that's probably a good thing. I don't know if that people really know about that on the island, but it would be good because, people from up north, they've never had to deal with like mold issues like we do down here.
Right. I would add to that, Sandy, that any wall that is insulated go up probably the entire length, because that stuff inside the wall is like one big sponge. Even though your sheetrock may look fine, it's just soaking water. And I've been through several of these. You're going to find water issues 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks from now. So it's important to err on the side of safety. Absolutely.
Right. Those
Point.
excellent points. Thanks, Sandy, for bringing that up.
And then the only other questions that we really didn't answer were some of the island water ones, because I don't think they had answers. So we're going to need to follow up with her or with somebody there about this whole process of reconnecting and turning things on, because some of the
Right.
folks
She did
that are
say
remote
that
are
she-
concerned about if they get turned on without anybody being in the house, will there be a problem? So
Well, I'm going to
that's-
tell you right now, every valve other than on Sandcap Drive and Plantation Road is closed going to residential or commercial environments, with the exception, obviously, Tony mentioned he's got a valve on. And Island Water turned on a valve toward our conference center so we could set up those bathrooms in that triage area. But do not open those valves. They're going to methodically get through it. They're going to do it. And Diana is all over it, and we talk twice a day. So
No,
I'll
I
keep
think-
everybody posted.
I think it's more, it's not the concern about what Island Water will do. It's what's going to happen inside the house.
Yeah, I think everybody needs to shut off the water supply to their house.
Well, that's what Diana was saying. They're not
Yeah.
going to turn on that water until the owner requests it.
Right.
And they're going to make the
Right.
assumption the owner's there.
Right,
think-
but if the owner, if he's, has all his water turned on and, they start pumping water, people are gonna start getting their houses flooded, so.
Well, I think that's why we need to reiterate, you need to have somebody on site before you request
Right.
Yeah.
connection. And then the last question, another one just popped up and it had been earlier as well. A question about captains. We have 2 different lists of boat captains that you can contact. If you wish, those will be posted.
Yes. There are numerous lists out there. Captiva Yacht Club has one. Ding Darling has a list. Sanctuary Golf Club has a list. There are numerous lists out there.
And as people run into information, send it to me and I'll get it out to everybody the next day or whatever, whenever we're sending things. I can act as a conduit and it takes very little time. If you send me an email, I can cut and paste and it's gone.
I got one other thought or question. Bob, maybe you know the answer to this. What are, generally speaking, the guides charging for like a full day, leave at 8 in the morning or 7 in the morning, come back at 3 or 4? Are these prices going up and down or is there
Tony,
kind of a
the
standard?
information I have on that, in general, the guides are looking at it as they are charging what they did generally for, fishing trip charters.
Right, okay.
And the going rate on Captiva is $1,100 for a full day, $550 for a half day. Now, not all of them are doing that, but I know many of them are looking at, this is the same thing as if you chartered me to go on a fishing trip.
That's correct. Yeah, our charge has been basically $1,000 for a full day.
Okay, that's, I
And
just.
a lot of them are having a hard time finding a place to leave from on the mainland.
Right.
They're coming from downtown Fort Myers, which takes an hour and a half. So, and you got to get gas. You got to take your cans to the gas station, pour all the 5-gallon cans in your boat, and then go
Yeah.
back. So
I just
there's no
want people to
marinas open
understand
where
it,
you can
that's
get
all.
gas.
Good, thank you.
Yeah, the hope is that Captiva Cruises will have a ferry service up and running in some reasonably short time. And I suspect the cost for that ferry ride to and from Captiva would be less.
Probably much less than hiring a fishing
yeah.
guide.
And that's the hope, and that's what we're trying to set up as quickly as possible.
Right.
And Dave, Kevin mentioned Adventures in Paradise.
Yes, what he mentioned is that Sanibel is setting that up for Sanibel ferry service. And they had a contract they developed, and he just wanted to get us a copy of that contract to make a contract between the county and Captiva Cruises a little easier to negotiate.
Yeah, because we'd want Captiva Cruises for
No
Yeah,
question.
that was just the paperwork. That was just the paperwork. This was
Got
already
it.
been looked at, approved, do the same thing.
Exactly.
Okay,
Thank you.
any other discussion? If not, can I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
I'll make a motion.
Move.
I'll second.
Okay, any discussion?
No.
All in
We'll meet
favor to
again.
adjourn?
Aye.
We were
Thanks,
adjourned.
everyone.
Thank
Great
you,
work,
Ken.
everybody. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Be safe.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Thanks, Jay.